Well, guys, looks like I'm on here alone again, like I did the first time. So I figured I'd start tonight with a guy that I watch. I'm sure all you guys know him. He's got a lot of viewers, Mr. Repsion. He came in contact with a feminist trope, I guess you would say. It's kind of like what we constantly talk about. It's a well-known fact that 68% of spousal abuse is from women towards men, and a lot of women don't see that verbally abusing a man or hitting a man or treating his children poorly, any of this is abuse. It's only abuse if you hit a woman, and that's the only abuse that can be had in a relationship. So let's put this up on the screen, and I will show you what I'm talking about here. We'll watch this. We'll start the video with this, basically.
Because I don't like seeing people fight. And they have two kids across from me, a 5-year-old and a, I believe he's 12-year-old. And this morning I was woken up by her screaming. And I mean screaming, where when they go inside the house or the apartment, you can hear them screaming. When they come out on the side of the deck, you can hear them screaming. Either or, you can hear them inside or outside, or her, because she's the one doing all the screaming. The guy is very, very calm, relaxed. But what I find so disturbing about this whole situation and her fighting with the guy is, and I'm going to quote you verbatim some of the things that she said. "I am going to take everything from you. When I file for divorce, you will lose everything. You will be homeless." Later on, as she's screaming, he asks her, "How are you going to kick me out of the apartment? Because we both co-signed the lease together for the apartment." And she looks up at him in the most condescending way, and she's like, "Really? Really? I'll just call the cops on you. I'll tell them that you hit me. I shit you not." That's what she said. And I'm looking through the little, thing blind of my window, watching the interaction, altercation go down. And she said that. And what's even more ironic is that she is like, I don't want to say like punching him when she's yelling at him, but she's like hitting him on the arm kind of thing, like verbally doing like this. I don't know if you would call that physical abuse or what, but she's actually the one who is hitting him. And the whole time he's like, "Stop, please stop." This is right out on the deck. And then they go inside for a little bit, and they come out on the deck again.
Hello?
You're like, he's allowing this, like, I don't know the situation, what is causing her to be angry and screaming at him. Supposedly, from what I've been listening to,
yeah,
I saw that it said psychotic. So Rob, as you know, is in the mental institution, and they're still trolling him. I guess they want him to commit suicide before they're done with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it's not fucking stopping.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm starting the video with a video from Mr. Repsion. He's talking about a woman that lives across from him in an apartment complex, and he came full on. He actually, I believe he just moved to a new apartment not too long ago, a couple months ago, and he came head on with the feminist trope that we all talk about, that feminists never seem to want to talk about, how the women are 68% of spousal abuse is had by men at the hands of women, and they don't consider abuse in a relationship hitting or verbal abuse that's had by the woman doing that towards the man. It's only abuse if the man hits a woman. And he has this woman yelling at the kids. She has a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old, and she's like telling her husband that she's going to kick him out, and divorce him, and take the kids, and take the house, and leave him homeless, and take all his shit, and call the cops and say that he hit her and all this kind of shit. And it's basically the same shit we always talk about, and women always act like it doesn't exist. So I'm starting the video with that.
This guy somebody that logs into Hangouts or not?
He would be, yeah. His channel, I'm sure you've heard of him, is Mr. Repsion. He's a video gamer. He's got like almost 500,000 subscribers. I think more than that even. Yeah, almost five. He's got 465,000 subscribers. But yeah, he's basically talking about this next door neighbor lady, and if you listen to it, it's crazy some of the shit that this woman thinks she can get away with just because this guy's her husband. And she starts saying she's gonna like call the cops on him and say that he hit her, and she's like fucking with his kids and calling his kids bad names and just acting like a total bitch. And it's perfectly all right because she's a woman.
About something. And whether he lied, whether he cheated on you, physically hitting someone is not okay just because you're angry or upset. And what's even worse about the situation is she's saying that I'm going to take the kids away from you. I don't want them to be around a father who lies. But to be honest, I'd rather have a father who lies than a psychotic bitch like this woman, because she is a woman who I tweeted about a couple weeks ago, who, when he is not home, they're out on the deck, and she verbally constantly degrades her 5-year-old kid, and even the older teen. But some of the things that she says to this kid, and she has told us, he's 5 years old, take in mind, and he's a cute little kid. One week she told him to shut the fuck up, you're a joke. 5-year-olds don't cry. That is what she said. And I'm thinking to myself, you want to take away the kids from the father who, from what I can tell, he may lie. The kids, from what I've observed, have a better relationship with their father than their mother, and for most good reason. Because the mother is constantly degrading and telling her 5-year-old to shut up, you're stupid, and she speaks so loud, everyone around us can hear it. But at what point do you, what do you do next when you see a young child being so verbally abused and degraded and belittled and told that he's worthless? Because a 5-year-old being succumbed to that type of behavior is going to grow up with the lowest of lowest self-esteem, having his mother browbeat him like that. You don't just tell a 5-year-old that he's stupid, that he needs to shut the fuck up. And this is the woman who's threatening to divorce this guy for lying about something, take everything that he has, wanting to leave him homeless, and then she says, and I quote, I have more legal power than you do. She said that. And that's damn true. It is damn true. The inequalities of when a divorce goes down, a woman can claim a lot of things and usually get more things given to her, if not everything given to her, and the guy ultimately gets fucked over. And this is why, to a degree, women scare me, is because within the legal realm, they can say and pretty much do anything, and the majority, they can get away with whatever they claim because they are a woman. And it terrifies me that any woman can say that he hit me when he didn't, and when the cops come, they'll most likely side with the woman because, well, a woman saying domestic abuse, that he's doing domestic abuse is more valid than a man who claims that his wife is hitting him. And that to me is fucked up, that we live in a society where this type of inequality exists. Domestic abuse, no matter who it is wrong. But for the legal side of the law to favor a woman over a man, the man to get punished without even proper evidence to be provided for what she's claiming is absurd to me. And that's why I'm so terrified with people who I date, people who I go out with who are specifically a woman, because I'm terrified of that, because I've already dealt with that legally, and somehow, amazingly, miraculously, I won in court. And I've already talked about that before, but I had claims against me that were not true, that were lied, that were falsified. I should try to get a restraining order put on me, which ultimately failed, because unlike a lot of judges, this judge actually asked for evidence, and I provided evidence to the judge that what she said was bullshit. But it's situations like this that make me step back and realize how fucked up equality really is in the realm of the legal sphere. And if you're a woman who thinks you can use the legal sphere for your own personal gain and get things put onto people who are guilty, then you are truly a motherfucking dirty, soggy cunt. That's all I gotta say.
I like that guy. Yeah. So he came in contact with the exact some of these people that don't don't see this or don't think it's true, and then they come in contact with the real deal. They start to realize what's really going on. It's funny to see.
Yeah, but aren't you like a tranny? Why would you put girls down though? I'm not following why you're MGTOW. What I'm saying.
I'm Well, because I don't feel that the lifestyle that a woman is up to at the moment isn't something that I consider to be a viable way to live.
Yeah, but you do identify with their feminineness, though, right?
No,
But
that's what a lot of people don't understand. Because when you're transgender, it doesn't mean. I mean, it means that you would like to be feminine, but it doesn't mean that you want to be a woman. In some cases, like with me, and with the discussions that I have with a lot of transgender women, a lot of us feel that we're never going to be accepted by women. That's why a lot of them try to be feminists, because they feel if they're feminists, they'll have friends, and the feminists will help them in their pursuits. But feminists don't give a fuck about women, let alone transgenders. So we tend to be in the middle. I feel I'm more in the middle. Like I'm not really, I don't feel really totally like I'm a man, but I'm never going to be a woman. So I'm not really either way, and uh, I'm not going to be married to a woman ever again. Although I am attracted to women. I'm not ever going to be with a woman again. So there's no reason for me to have that lifestyle anymore. And I haven't actually been with a woman or dated a woman since January of 2013.
what decade of life are you in? Are you in your 40s?
Yeah, I'm 42.
And so you're definitely at an age where most people are already married, right? I mean,
Yeah, I've been married 4 times. I have 4 children. 2 of my kids live here in Japan, and then 2 of my kids live in America. 2 of my ex-wives are in the U.S., and 2 of them are here in Japan. My son just turned on the 10th of this month. He turned 14. My youngest. My oldest is 26.
if your oldest is 26, what the hell? You had that kid when you were 16.
I was 15 when she got pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Obviously, that would have been in America, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I moved here in 2000.
And you have no desire to move back to the States?
Never. Never.
What's so special about Japan?
I just I moved here in 2000, and I never really liked America that much. And my whole life, I hung around Asians. I was in martial arts from the time I was 10 years old, and so I went over to a lot of Asian people's houses. My mother was Asian, so I ended up hanging out with Koreans and Filipinos and Vietnamese and Chinese and Japanese and stuff when I was a kid, and I did that until when I became a black belt instructor when I was 17. And then most of my students were whites, but lots of them were Asian. So I just kind of hung out with Asians most of my life. And then when I got a chance to go to Japan, it just kind of like everything kind of sunk, it kind of synced together. And I like the culture. I like the place. It's a nice place to kind of just not really be browbeaten by women. and not have them hounding after you. Over here, it's a much different culture because of the herbivore men. So if you're not looking, actively searching for a woman, nobody's going to find you, and it makes it a lot nicer. You don't have that kind of constant berating of people trying to date you like you have in America, you know. So here, if you want to go out with friends and you go out to a bar, chances are you're not going to go home with anybody unless you're actively searching for that, looking for that. And in America, you're going to have people trying to hit on you, and or you're going to be expected to hit on somebody. And in Japan, it's just not the case. It's really nice. It's a nice place to kind of just disappear into society and not really have anything expected of you.
Sounds pretty boring if that's how it is there.
What?
Sounds pretty boring if that's how it is there.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If you're MGTOW or an herbivore, then it's nice. It's a way for you to not have to. Most jobs in Japan, and besides the secretary and the office and stuff, it's mostly men. So you end up not really having to associate with much having to do with women. Most women are home. Once they get married to a man, they're home and they don't. They just take care of the kids and then bitch at each other about their husbands. So you don't really see them a lot. And only if they're divorced or they haven't been married yet, they're working for companies. Typically, they're not going to be working for your company. You know, most of the people that work for our companies are people that are older and have retired or are divorced. So you don't see a lot of the young kind of girls out of high school type thing. They work for, you know, record stores and nail salons and, you know, McDonald's and crap like that, grocery stores. So you don't really see a lot of those women.
By the way, what's it cost for McDonald's there or basic stuff? Is it expensive or is it pretty cheap?
It's a lot cheaper than in America. Like, I mean, it's like the same price as an American one, but because of the dollar translation, it actually ends up being a few cents less. But it's also smaller. You know, like a Big Mac is like the size of like a little tiny hamburger that you get for kids in America. You know, so it's not really that big. But it's not like America. They don't like stuff their face with lots and lots of food in it. Like a large in Japan is the size of like a small or like a medium maybe. You know, in America, they don't have like 32-ounce drinks, and nobody would even drink shit like that in Japan. You know, so you don't even find drinks like that anywhere that you go to. The biggest thing you can find is maybe like a, you know, like a 25-ounce drink or something like that.
Well, it doesn't sound like you get much bang for your buck then if it's that small.
Yeah, you know, it's just the way it is in Japan. You know, you get small portions, and you know you pay about the same as you do in America.
So, I mean, you must be asexual, or I mean, I'm not following you. You say you haven't been with a woman since 2013. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm asexual. Yeah, my whole life I've basically only been with people that like if somebody shows interest in me, that's usually enough for me to go, okay, then I'll date them. You know, if they say like, wow, you're cute, and they want to have a relationship with me, then I go. And if nobody wants to do that, then I'm not with anybody. And I've been just actively not wanting to be with anybody for almost 3 years now. It'll be 3 years in January, actually.
Um, have you ever been dressed up and a guy hit on you before?
No, but I have since I came out as transgender. I have had a bunch of guys send me dick pics and try to flirt with me on Facebook.
What the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. Just I think it's just because of my picture. I have my cyberpunk picture on there, and they think you know that's what I look like right now. and that's actually what I looked like in '96. So they think like, you know, I'm going to be this really like hot chick or something like that, and I tell them, you know, I'm like, you know, transgender, and they're like, oh, I don't care. And I'm like, okay. And then they send me dick pics, and I'm like, oh, dude, man, I'm like, I'm not into dudes. Sorry. You
Yeah,
know?
but you're saying that they're doing it through Facebook. Like Facebook is not even a sexual fucking site. I don't know. That's fucked up.
Exactly. They send me like personal messages and stuff. It happens to most transgender people. You'd be surprised how many people get like people from Facebook trying to hit on you. You know, happens all the time, especially for transgender people. We get like I get people like at least 4 or 5 times a week sending me dick pics on Facebook.
That's pretty. Just out of nowhere on Facebook. Hey, I'm going to send you a nude pic of myself just to get us on Facebook.
Yeah, that's they like they'll like write a couple mails to me, or and one guy, he was like some Arabian guy and from like Saudi Arabia, and he sent me a message that said like, hey, and I wrote him back like, hey, what's up? And then the next thing was a dick pic. And I just kind of like breezed by it. I was like, what's up? And he was like, oh, I seen your page and I thought you were really cute and blah blah blah. And I was like, no, I'm like transgender, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I don't care. I was like, I was like, well, that's nice that you don't care, but I do. I don't date dudes. I was like, you know, so it was really funny. I get shit like that all the time.
Yeah, I don't use Facebook. I've never fucking liked it, and I don't use it. It's just fucking stupid. So if I want to see somebody's photos, they can post them on Instagram, where you basically go right to their Instagram and you can see like fucking 1,000 photos and just scroll down. You know, there's no fucking bullshit that pops up.
Yeah.
Instagram was a ingenious idea, which is weird because Facebook bought Instagram, but it's still separate as Instagram.
Yeah.
Very good program. So I mean, the only purpose I saw for Facebook was for like maybe sharing photos and I guess if you have an event or something. But otherwise, I don't want to go to your fucking page and have to like keep up on your fucking life. You know, I got better shit to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it's the Kardashian way of life now, where these people. It happened. I seen it. It really changed. This whole thing changed in the year I moved to Japan. Within the couple years of me moving to Japan, because we started that Survivor, and with Survivor is where it all started, because people started wanting to see other people's lives, and then they started doing the Bachelor, you know, and all those kind of things, and then all these Real World, and you know the wives, and you know the Jersey Shore, and all this stuff, and then the Kardashians, and all of a sudden it's like everybody wants to know, you know, you got the Osbournes, everybody wants to know what everybody else is doing in their life. You know, you got that one that came out with the guy from Kiss, you know, and then you got the Brett, whatever his name is, from Poison. You know, they did his life thing, and then they did another one now with the guy from Back to the Future with his family. You know, so I mean, there's all these people want to see what other people are doing in their lives, which is one reason why YouTube is so famous. You know, why people like to see what you're doing in your life, even if it's just nothing. Some guy walking around all day talking about what he's doing today. People think that's neat, mainly because they don't really have a lot they're going on in their life. You know, maybe they're just working at Walmart, and you know they come home and play video games, and they don't really have anything going on in their life, so they watch YouTube and see with somebody else that might be doing something cool. You know, which is I don't understand the people like PewDiePie that you know, the guy plays video games and other people watch him play video games, and he's got like, you know, he makes like $100 million a year. You know, it's crazy. I don't know why anybody would want to watch somebody else play a video game. So it doesn't make any sense to me. But that's, you know, people are into watching other people do things nowadays, I guess.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a good platform, so that's why I don't use it. It's fucking not a good platform at all, and I don't want it to. I don't want it to be tracking my every fucking move and trying to send me ads and shit. I don't need that.
Yeah.
I hate the platform. I mean, I also don't use Chrome. I think Chrome's a shitty browser. I don't know why it's so popular.
Yeah. I've got Chrome too, but I only got it because I'm on a bunch of uh, like music websites. I'm on a website called BandHub, and you can load up like songs on there, and then other people can get on and add to your songs. So you can like do a piano thing, and then you can do a vocal to it, or somebody else can do the vocal for it. And then somebody else can get on and play like, you know, the saxophone to it, and you can just kind of build up a song like that. And when somebody comes on and plays the song, it plays all the songs together, everything that everybody put on there together. So it's kind of a cool site, but their recording software only works with Google Chrome, so you can't use it on, you know, Firefox or anything else.
Chrome's got so many processes running in the background. I've always had Firefox has always ran faster on my computer, so I don't know why that.
That's what I'm on right now. I use Firefox mostly for everything. I have the Internet Explorer as well, but I hardly ever open it.
Oh, that thing was crap a long time ago.
Yeah, it's still on my thing. I'd like to just delete it off there. I don't really need it for anything. But I got that, and I got Google Chrome, and I only use Google Chrome when I do that website. Or there's like 2 more other websites that I have to use it for, but that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Gmail is shit too. I don't fucking like Gmail. Gmail can go fuck itself.
Yeah. I had a Gmail account, and I tried to get into it once before, but it keeps asking me for to give like a password or something like that, and it asked me like three different questions, and then I opened the account in like 2011, so I don't remember any of the shit, so I can't even get it to open anyways. So
Yeah,
I might have tons and tons of mail on it, but I have no idea because I can't get into it anymore.
Yep, Gmail's notorious for locking people out. Like Gmail's almost as paranoid as Facebook is when it comes to, is it really you? Your IP address is different. Well, I wonder why, man. I mean, I fucking travel, you know. Lots of people don't keep the same IP address every fucking day.
Yeah, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 laptops and a desktop downstairs. So you know, depending on what laptop I open and what I'm using, you know, I have a different address as well. You know,
that's what I mean. You know, we live in a world where people aren't sitting at a fucking 1980s computer. They have laptops and fucking iPads and their phones. You know, Facebook or Google is so fucking stupid to think that my IP address is going to be the same IP address that it was last week. They're fucking idiots.
Yeah, because people are always moving around. Yeah.
You know, that was the whole. You know, when it comes to that, though, I will say that this past couple of decades, that's been a big trend and a good trend, because you know, you no longer have to be sitting in a dark room somewhere in a fucking basement. You know, you can actually be out in society and be connected. I mean, it's nice.
Yeah.
I think smartphones and smaller laptops and the iPads have all been good. I don't know why people are so anti. It's the devil's work. I mean, all of this technology, and they're texting all the time. Well, you know what? Good. I'm glad people are texting. You know, they're actually having to write stuff and read stuff. That's good. I mean, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, the problem we're having with it is I'm a teacher, and kids are learning how to work on the computer before they even learn how to write. And the problem with that is lots of children now, most children actually, they're not even teaching it anymore in schools. They don't teach cursive, and most kids can't read it. So if you gave them like, you know, one a one sentence phrase in cursive, most of them wouldn't know what it says because they can't read it, you know. And that's something we used to learn in like second grade or third grade. We'd learn cursive. So, and lots of kids are forgetting how to write in general just because they don't really ever write. They type, you know. So
Well,
it's becoming,
well, writing is very inefficient, and I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that. I mean, you know, the whole aspect of taking notes on paper, I mean, it's useless. You know, you shouldn't waste your time with it anyways.
yeah, but that's something that is a skill that everybody needs to know. You know, you need to know how to write.
I mean, you know, you can take notes on a keyboard. You shouldn't have to be, you know. I mean, seriously, I'm older too, man, and I'm very open minded on this, and I think that it's a good thing that kids are learning how to type, and typing is taking hold over writing by hand, because writing by hand is very inefficient.
Yeah, but the problem with that is it's also uh, because they're not learning it at a young age like most kids did, like when we were that age. They're the part of their brain that learns that skill is actually in the time that they're supposed to be learning it, it's not learning it, and it's a skill that means as you get older, your brain doesn't want to accept it. You know, it's kind of like the people that don't learn English, the children that don't learn English when they're children, when they get older, they can't they can't learn. It's just not something their brain will allow them to do. Like many people that have been deaf their whole life, and then they get the deal in their ear where they can actually hear themselves speak. Their brain just doesn't register that their voice sounds strange, and it's hard for them to speak normally. You know, to speak like where they don't sound like they're still deaf. You know, because their brain just that's the way their brain works now, and that's something that you have to learn when you're a child, when your brain is in that phase of learning. And lots of kids nowadays, because of the way they're being taught at a young age about typing on the keyboards and stuff like that, they're not learning how to read very well. They're not they and because of not writing, when you write, you learn how to think in a way where you have some comprehension skills, and you also have some I don't know how I'd want to put that, like you know, like staying power. Like when you're reading something, you'll read it to the end and you don't get easily bored with it. And with the way kids are being fed information nowadays, they're so quick, and they want to just get it done and get it over with, and they don't have much focus. It's hard for them to have uh, retention when you're reading things in class, and when you're giving them tests or when you're trying to teach them things. They want to get through it so quickly, and they don't actually learn anything, and they breeze through everything so quickly because they're just used. That's the way their life is. They got so much information coming at them, and nothing sticks. So it's really hard because of this new lifestyle that we have now. It's really hard to teach them anything. They don't learn.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
Nothing sticks. You know, nothing sticks. Like they'll take a test, and you could give them the same test 2 days later, and they'll fail it. You know, and it's just because they have so much information coming at them, they just don't know how to keep it. They can't retain any of this information.
yeah, but you know, there's a lot of books that I've cracked open, and they are shit though, man, and they're not readable. They're not made to be readable. It's just somebody trying to fucking fill pages, and they don't know how to actually articulate articulate their point in a concise manner. Okay, I mean, this is a problem as well. You have a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. You have a lot of stuff that's written that's not written in a way to be readable. So you know, this is you know, because we lost the skill of what they call that. You know, it was a formal discipline. Um, it's not didactics; it's something else. Anyways, we used to have this ability training where people would learn how to frame stuff in their mind before they spoke or wrote, and there's an actual term for it. They would train you how to do this, how to actually come up with an argument or come up with something to write before you actually put it out on paper. You could do it in your head. Today people just throw crap on the paper and they just ramble and ramble and ramble. They don't know how to be concise and direct and make a valid point.
Yeah, a lot of that is just the way we're starting to be taught now. Most of the teachers nowadays are just teaching to tests, and they're not actually kids just aren't learning anymore. It's really hard to teach children anymore. We're having to change our teaching styles to try to actually get them to pick things up, which is why I liked coming to Japan, because it's the way children are taught here at a young age. It makes it they're much easier to teach, and they're not like the American kids. The American kids are just you can't teach them. You know, they want to run around the room. They don't want to listen. They're all ADHD, and they got so much. It's not even that they are ADHD. It's just that they have so much information coming at them and at so much high speed, they can't sit and listen to somebody even talk for a minute. They even if they did, they wouldn't be able to remember what you just said. They have to have so much information just flying at their face that they just don't understand anything, you know. And it's really hard to get them to learn anything. It's very frustrating as a teacher in America, you know. And then if they don't learn anything, then the parents come to you and say it's your fault, you know. So, you know, but then the kids are at home, and the first thing they do when they get home is play a video game, and then they get on their iPad, and then they're on their Facebook, and then they watch YouTube videos, and they don't have friends. Their friend is their, you know, Angry Birds, you know. So I mean, it's sad. It's a sad life now, you know, especially for a teacher, you know.
Yeah, education is going to continue. Our stats in education are going to continue to dwindle if we continue to run with this crap that it's the teacher's fault that someone's not learning. You know, students need to take responsibility for their own learning, especially by the time they're in high school. Because by the time you're in college, you know, you don't take responsibility for your own learning, you're gonna flunk out. You know, and that this is the problem. You know, we're almost like telling them, oh, it's okay. Yeah, we'll blame your teacher. You know, it's okay. You can just ignore your teacher because he or she is a bad teacher, so don't worry about it. You know, I mean, this is the crap that they're coming up with. They wanna blame the teacher for everything and not hold the kid responsible for anything at all.
Yeah,
You know?
they do the same thing here in Japan. It's really annoying for me. I'm getting a job right now where I'm going to be teaching children like from the ages of 3 till 12. And the problem with that is a lot of these parents, the mom in Japan, they have like a lot of the cartoons that we have in the United States, but they also have cartoons that have foreigners that are here in Japan that speak Japanese but also speak English, obviously, and they'll have these cartoons where or not cartoons, but like, you know, morning shows where they're half in English and half in Japanese, and they'll hear their kids say something like hello or good morning or something like that, and the mom says like, oh, our kid wants to learn English, so they enroll him into an English school, and then the kid didn't really want to learn English. They just said something that they heard on TV, you know. So the parent will have you teach their kid for a few weeks, and then when their kid doesn't learn anything, and you have to write down in a book every day that what's going on in the class, and you're like, this child's unruly and doesn't learn and blah blah blah, then they say, well, that's your fault, and you end up getting fired. So most English teachers here in Japan have like 7 or 8 jobs, and they have to do that because they're constantly losing jobs because of this exact thing, you know, because it's the teacher's fault.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Do you speak Japanese by chance? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
Wow.
You have to if you live here. I mean, you don't have to, but if you don't speak it, you're going to have a hard time. You got to know some Japanese to live here, especially to that's something I used to do when I was here before. I used to teach a lot of the foreigners that come to Japan that don't really have much Japanese skill at all. In some cases, they might have took like one semester of Japanese so that they could come here and work. They, I used to give like beginners Japanese courses so that they could learn some basic Japanese to speak with the kids and to speak with the teachers and teach them a little bit about some etiquette so that they would not do silly things like walking into this classroom with shoes on, things like that. Just simple things, saying hello and goodbye and good evening, things like that. So I would teach classes like that, teach a lot of the foreigners. So it's just something you need to know over here. You have to know some Japanese, even if it's very rudimentary.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you speak Japanese now.
Yeah, I have to. I've been here. I've lived here a total of well, in February it'll be 11 years I've lived here. Yeah. So I
But
came I came here in 2000 and then left in 2009 and then I came back in January. So January of next year I'll be here for 11 years total.
wow.
So if I can't speak Japanese now, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think I am an idiot though, because I've kind of reached the point where if I were to, even attempt Spanish or something else right now, I wouldn't have any desire to do it. I've reached that point where it should have happened at a younger age, and it never did. So I have no desire to learn it now.
Well, it's one of those things where what you need to do is actually be immersed in it. If you really want to learn a language, the best way to do it is just to go someplace where you have to. I mean, like if you wanted to learn Spanish and you just like studied, some Spanish books and watched Spanish television or something, you're not going to learn it. But if you move down to Mexico for like 6 months, you'd be surprised how much you'll pick up because nobody will speak English and you'll have to speak it. And that's basically that's why I learned it. I wouldn't have ever learned Japanese if I stayed in the US, but because I came to Japan, I had to speak it. It's like, it's not, and everywhere you go, everybody's speaking it. So you just kind of get immersed into the culture. All the TV shows that are on TV are in Japanese. All the radio stations are in Japanese. Everybody around you is speaking Japanese. So you just start picking it up. You pick up the phonics pretty quickly, and then you start speaking. It's not hard. So that's the best way to learn a language. You can't learn a language just reading a book or, doing a CD or something like that. You might learn a few things and have a little bit of retention, but if you really want to get it, you have to do just like you do with English. You have to use it every day. So if you come to Japan and you want to learn Japanese, that's the best way to do it. Within 6 months of living here, you'll know a lot of Japanese because you have to.
Yeah, I disagree. I think reading is very valuable when learning a language, but you have to have some sort of basic base before you can benefit from the reading. Though, if you don't have that basic base, then you'll never get anywhere with
Yeah,
reading.
you have to have the comprehension of what you're reading and what it means. Because in
Well, not
Japanese,
I don't
depending
know,
on
not
what you're reading,
well,
in
yeah,
Japanese,
not
it has
necessarily. Because when I started reading, I couldn't even read really when I first started to read. My reading was very poor, but obviously I spoke English, and the more I read, the better my comprehension got.
yeah, well, in Japanese, you have to know how to speak. That's the most important thing. If you know how to speak, then you can read. You can read easily because you can sound out what you're reading and stuff. But in the problem that we have here is a lot of kids learn English in the same way they learn Japanese, and none of them learned any comprehension skills because of that. They get so anal on the way you write a certain letter and how it's wrote, and it has to be written exactly right, and it's really annoying, you know, that they teach that way, because it's very silly way for them to learn. Plus, the reason why a lot of them can't speak well is they don't teach them English. They teach them what's called katakana, and katakana is Japanese, what we would consider here romanji. It's basically English characters with Japanese pronunciation, you know. So it's just basically Japanese wrote in English, but it's still pronounced and sounded as Japanese, you know. So by doing that, what happens is they pronounce everything wrong because of that. They learn Japanese pronunciation with English letters. So that's why they say silly things like starto and things like that, because they don't learn English. They learn Japanese English, you know. So it's a very poor way to teach, but that's how they teach here in schools. Even they still think it's fine to teach kids with kanji, with katakana, and katakana is the worst way to learn English. It's not. It's they say silly things. I've talked about it before in things where they don't say V. They don't know how to say V, like when you say violin. They say B, like buoy, like a buoy out in the ocean, you know. So I always have to talk to my kids when I'm teaching them and write on the board what a buoy is and tell them that that's a buoy, and they can't even hear the difference because they don't know that letter. In our language, there's our vowels, and then everything after that has a vowel, so they just can't hear that V. You know, they don't understand why their buoy and my V doesn't sound the same. You know, it sounds the same to them because they just haven't heard it. So you have to like beat that into their head that buoy and V aren't the same thing. You know.
Yeah, I have a background in one foreign language, and I do, you know, I'm definitely beyond the average American when it comes to that language, and I can definitely utilize it and utilize it quite well. But I was just making the point that any other languages, though, there's no way. I learned that one language. That was it. I said I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about learning a language is that it's kind of like riding a bicycle. Even if you don't use that language, you know, assuming you actually learned it, you know, there's a big difference between sitting in a class and learning it. Assuming you learned it, you will never forget it. Like I will never forget the language that I learned. It'll never happen.
That's in what I do is teach, and I teach language. What typically ends up happening to a lot of foreigners, like foreigners will come here to Japan and they've spoke English their whole life, and they'll come here and they'll have to learn Japanese, and after being here for 5 or 6 years and speaking Japanese 60 to 70% of the time when they're here, they'll have Japanese friends, they'll go out to Japanese movies, they'll do a lot of things with Japanese people, and they will have foreigner friends, but most of the day they speak Japanese, you know, besides when they're in their classes and stuff. Like the teachers, the schools they work for, lots of them will have to speak Japanese to the teachers because they won't speak English, you know, and stuff like that. So they end up speaking so much Japanese and learning so much, and you're constantly having to think in Japanese. What does this mean? What does that mean? You'll start to forget words. A lot of them, they'll be like me. I'm constantly like, I'll try to be saying something and I'll be like, oh, what's that word? What is it? And it's something really silly. I'll have to get on Google. And I like I say, I've got a doctorate in teaching, and I still have to look on Google sometimes to find out what the hell I'm trying to say, because I forget the words in English because I don't speak English much.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you speak Japanese so much. I mean, the English is still there; you'll never forget it. So, I was just making the point, though, that if you really learn a language, like you've learned Japanese now, you know, like you'll never forget Japanese. Like, you know, people don't realize.
I did. I've actually got very rusty on it. I went to America for 6 years to college, and when I came back here, which it was in January, I forgot all kinds of it. I'm still learning it back. I haven't been here long enough and had enough friends in Japanese. I don't have a TV. I don't, I don't watch Japanese television stuff. So I really haven't got back into speaking Japanese like I was before when I left in 2009. So I forgot a lot of it. It's very easy to do, to forget when you get out of the culture and you leave. I left for 6 years, and when I went to college in America, I didn't have any Japanese friends. So I didn't speak Japanese for 6 years, and now I came back and I know a little bit of it, but I probably lost about 45% of what I knew. And I have to relearn it all again. It's just, with any language, it's using it. You have to use it. And if you don't use it, you lose it. It's how it is with everything. You can move to France and learn French and live there for 10 years. And then if you go back to America for 5 years and then go back to, France 5 years later, you'll be surprised. You'll forget a lot of it.
Yeah, I haven't had any formal education, university coursework in the language I speak, though, in about 10 years. Okay, and if you go 10 years without using math, you're going to forget it. A language is different, though. A language is a whole system that runs together. Okay, it's a lot different than learning isolated things like math. Math is very isolated. So even though I haven't used the language with a native speaker on like a weekly or monthly basis, I can go a year or two without talking to a native speaker, whatever it is, making the point that a language is easier to retain because of that system that's involved with it. It's not like discrete little things. It's a whole language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. If you properly learned it, okay, then that's a big catcher there, okay. If you properly learned it, you will not forget it. If you just sat in a class and memorized stuff, then then you're not really learning it. You kind of follow what I'm saying, because they do have a lot of classes where they say, people will say, well, I've had this for 4 years of language, but I can't remember any of it. Well, it's because they were just memorized crap. They didn't utilize it. Like you were saying, I agree with you. You really have to live in the culture. Like you're saying, those people that have lived in Japan for 4 or 5 years, they're going to be a lot better off than those that have studied the language for 10 years at a university, but never lived over there.
Exactly. You'll know a lot of stuff, and you'll know a lot of, just like they do here in Japan. I have a doctorate, but a lot of these Japanese kids that are in 7th or 8th grade are better at grammar than I am. They're like grammar Nazis. They can check my spelling and stuff, and check my punctuation and all this kind of stuff, but they don't know how to speak. And that's because of the way they teach here in Japan. They focus so much on that shit, and they don't focus on speaking, because that's the most important thing in language.
Yeah,
like with me, when I would teach the guys that would come here to learn Japanese, I'd say the most important thing you need to learn is how to speak it, because once you can speak it, you can write. I can teach you how to write, and once you learn the phonics of the writing, it's easy for you to sit down and write things in katakana and hiragana, which is easy for you to write in, and you can show that to somebody at a grocery store or anything like that, or you can write down things, or you can walk around the city, and a lot of things in the city are in kanji or katakana and hiragana. You'll see a lot of kanji, but a lot of times you'll also see katakana and hiragana. So if you know how to sound those words out, it becomes very easy, very quick for you to learn that stuff. And speaking is the most important thing that you can do in any language. If I can teach children, which I do all the time, if I can teach them to speak, I can teach them to read. So that's the most important thing in any language. The reason why kids have a first language is because the first thing you learn how to do in any language is from your parents. You hear their phonics. You learn how to speak. The first thing you have to do in any language is learn how to speak, and that's how your brain will learn. And once you learn how to speak, then you can learn how to write. And by writing, your brain actually learns to attain knowledge. And if you don't learn the skill of writing, your brain's not going to, it's going to be very hard for you to hold on to knowledge that you've received. That's
Yeah,
actually,
but I'm just,
that's actually
yeah,
part of your
hold
brain
on,
that accepts the
hold on.
knowledge.
Yeah, hold up though. I can type in a foreign language and I can retain new words that I use. I don't have to write by hand. I'm still not really on board with the whole. I mean, yes, it has some importance to know how to write by hand, but I'm just saying that the actual process is very inefficient, and I have incredibly bad handwriting, by the way. So
Yeah.
so
Well,
the ability so
that
the ability for me to type in a foreign language or English, whatever. I mean, you can always make out what I write though, because in cursive, whatever, you can't. Cursive is cursive. Even if
yeah.
you write in bad cursive, you can still read it. But I write cursive all the time, of course. But when I'm typing stuff, though, I still retain it. Now, I was going to say something else when you're talking about language, and what I was going to say is with that grammar stuff. The problem is like this is the way I was taught. You would speak it or write it, and instantly, oh, that's wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong. This is wrong. That's not productive. I agree with you. The best way to learn it is to have a student and let them make those mistakes, just as long as they're still speaking it. Let them speak it as much as they can, and don't give so much corrective feedback. If you give too much corrective feedback, it's going to discourage the person from speaking it, because they're going to think that they sound stupid.
That's the
Instead of
problem that we have here. I teach classes in colleges here where I teach students English still, and I'll teach them also psychology and music. And I'll teach an English class, and I'll have Japanese students, and they'll be able to, like I say, correct my English, and they might have learned English since like fourth or third grade, since they were in school, and they're in like their third year of college, and they still can't speak very well. And it's like, how can you have went this long studying English this long and know this much about English grammar and not be able to speak? And it's just because that's how they are here. They don't focus on the most important part of any language, and that's speaking it, using it. You have to be able to use it. If you can't speak it, then what's the point? I mean, if all you're ever going to do is write a language, you're not using it. I mean, you're using it in writing it, but if you can't, like, what are you going to do? Go to the country that you want to go to and just write everything down and show it to them? You're going to take a chalkboard with you and make them think you're deaf or something? It's like, you got to be able to speak it. You got to be able to use it.
That's not a bad idea, though. I mean, for somebody trying to learn a language initially, that's not a bad idea to pretend to be deaf.
Yeah.
In some cases it's not, but I agree with you. I mean, I think communication is key, and the way the modern foreign language methodology today stresses a communicative approach. So, for once, yes, they're doing this. See,
And see, they still aren't here in Japan. They have this thing where they just keep going with the same bullshit. You'll work at schools here, and it's hard for me to get jobs now because I have a PhD in teaching, and they know that you actually have the ability to come into a school and write texts, write like, books and stuff. So they're scared of you because they know you're going to come in and you're going to say, this way you're teaching is wrong. It's not going to work.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they don't want you to do that.
I know a lot about academics. So what is your what area is your PhD in though? Do you have a PhD in leadership? Do you have a PhD in curriculum? Do you have a PhD in instructional design? What is it actually in?
Philosophy of music education and composition.
Okay, well that would be very valuable actually for. I mean, it's kind of a. I don't want to call it a niche market, because there's definitely lots of music programs everywhere, no matter where you go. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty practical one to have. Now when you say music though, you mean like actual like playing instruments and stuff, right?
Writing and like teaching like theory and philosophy of music and things like that.
Okay, so being able to write music, and I mean you're able to play a couple instruments, so like piano or something, right?
19.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I really think that is a talent, because these people that get degrees uh, you know, course or choir or whatever the hell it is. I'm like, what? Like, how is that, you know, compared to the guy that has to teach somebody how to actually write the music or play an instrument? And that's nothing. You know, the instrumentation process is a lot more involved than just standing somewhere and singing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mean, that's my view on it.
Yeah. Well, I teach in college. I taught as a professor. I taught the voice and piano and drums and bass and guitar and cello and saxophone. You know, but I play like rock and jazz and heavy metal and stuff like that. But most of the stuff that I write is like classical style, you know, in like an orchestral. So I write for an entire orchestra, you know. So I have the theory to write that stuff, but I don't really. I mean, I play cello, but I don't really play that style of music. Though I like to write that style of music, and I don't mind listening to it. But I actually got the degree because I want to actually write. I came to Japan to do this as well, to write for movies, TV, and radio, and also do like video games, you know, to write like classical style music and write music pieces for stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you get like an assistantship though to do your PhD?
What do you mean?
Did you get an assistantship? I'm sure you know what an assistantship is if you got your PhD.
Never heard of it.
Okay. Well, how'd you pay for your PhD?
Oh, I was working as an auto bodyman. I had a shop, and I also was able to teach as a professor at a smaller college, and I was able to. I was doing not music. I was doing some music, but I mean mostly just private lessons, you know, like that kind of stuff. So I taught private lessons, and then I taught psychology. I taught like psychology 101 and psychology 121 and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty good gig as well. The people that teach at community colleges, and they only have to teach like, you know, the like 2 sections of the intro course, and that's it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, you get paid. That's how I paid for a lot of my college that way. You know.
Well, yeah, that's good though. I mean, they have nice jobs because I've been in programs before where there's only like one professor, and the guy was having to teach like every single level. Like that would drive me nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot of preparation work.
Oh yeah, it's a ton of work compared to the guy who's teaching just, you know, English 101 and English 102, and that's all they teach. You know, they haven't made.
Yeah, and it's the same. What's nice about it too is it's kind of the same curriculum all the time. I mean, they change the books and they might add like 3 or 4 pages, and then they make the students pay another, you know, $100 to buy the new book and shit. You know, but it's really, there's not a lot that changes. You know, there's just, instead of turning to page 55, you turn to page, you know, 58. You know, so it's kind of like you keep the same curriculum and you just go through the book and make sure that the same pages are what you're talking about, and if not, you just update the pages and you just basically teach the same shit.
Yeah,
so once you've came up with your plan, your teaching plan, then you're set for the whole school year, you know.
Yeah, that was always the scam. That was always a scam. I mean, with you know, okay, a foreign language. Yeah, foreign language may change sometimes. Okay, I understand. Like, you know, some languages will go through spelling reforms. They'll change some words around. English doesn't do this, but in Europe, this will happen with French or other languages. You know, German, Italian. You know, they'll change stuff up like every 20 years or something. You know, to make it, you know, a little more efficient in some regards. But overall, even with those minor changes, I mean, there's no reason to have to buy a brand new foreign language textbook every like 2 years or every other year. I mean, fuck, you can teach, you could teach stuff from a foreign language textbook that's 20 or 30 years old. You don't need a fucking brand new textbook to teach out of it. And what I've found is kind of what you're saying, is that the best professors I had, they were the ones that would take stuff out of textbooks, like multiple textbooks, like 5 or 6 different ones, and they photocopy it and make like a packet for us or something like that.
I did that a lot of times, especially with my music curriculum. You know? People would buy the book the first year, and then they wouldn't pass the course, and then they would come back like 2 semesters later to take it again. But they've brought out like 2 more books since then, but they've only got like 6 pages, that they've added. So I'll just tell them, just keep that book, and when we come to those pages, I'll just photocopy them off for you. And then when we're in the class, there's people throughout the whole class that buy used books, and some of the books are old. So you would tell them, okay, we're going to turn to this page, and I'd put the page up on the board on a through the computer, and they can see the page. And then I just tell them, if you're in book number 6, it'll be this page. If you're in book 7, it'll be this page. If you're in book 10, it'll be this page, and stuff like that. And I'll just go through, and everybody will be on the same page. And
it's just a lot easier. Just a lot easier to not even use the textbook and just photocopy. Actually, today you don't even you don't even need a photocopy, because they have a lot of these. Every college has an e-curriculum website anyway, so you just scan the page on a website, and the student can just download the book that way in a PDF and whatever. I mean, that's
the problem with that is, like, especially with a lot of colleges now, they're in cahoots with the book companies, and they don't want them to do that because they want the kids to have to pay for the books. And then they also tell them, like, in some cases, they tell the kids when they come in that you can't get an older book. You have to buy a new book. Like, they'll say, like, they came out with a new book, and they tell them, you can't buy a used book for this. You have to have the new book. So they end up having to spend an extra like $65 on the book.
Oh, more, dude! It's more than that. I mean,
so I'm just saying an extra $65. Where if they bought the used book, it might be $120. And because they can't do that, they're paying almost $200 for a new book just because it had like 3 extra pages.
That's what I mean. And, paying for the book, just having the book isn't going to pass the class for you. The one doing all the work is the student. Why the hell is the student got to fork over an extra $300 for fucking books per class? It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's a racket, man, and that's how a lot of these schools are nowadays. They're making kids, pay all this kind of money for buying shit tons of books. And like with me, I went through college. I've still got all my college books with me. I've probably got $15,000 of school books, and all of the stuff in them now, most of it is kind of obsolete, because I started learning psychology in 1997. That was when I first started going. So the books that I had from 1997, everything's changed. That's almost 20 years ago. So there's been lots of studies that have came out, lots of case studies, lots of things that have changed, different ideas, different concepts, lots of things have changed in the way we think about psychology. Same with teaching, same with music, a lot of ways of teaching, new styles, things like that have changed. And that's why they update the book. They say, well, we're going to add on to this narrative, or add on to this thing, or something like that. But it's usually, like I say, it's not a whole chapter. It's like 6 or 7 pages in a whole book, in a book of like 300 pages. So 6 pages don't mean a damn thing. And especially it's not full pages. It's just like little snippets on a page, with some pictures. So it doesn't really mean a lot. It's like 6 paragraphs. So, and they're having to pay, like I say, an extra $65 for a book just for those 6 paragraphs.
Yeah, it's stupid. I agree with you. I mean, like I was saying though, with the ability to make your own PDF, actually a big thing now today are e-textbooks, and these companies are finally realizing that, hey, some professors might want to only take a chapter or 2 from this book, or chapter or 2 from this book. You know what I mean? Because I always thought the best professors were the ones that would branch out and utilize more than just one fucking source. That's how it usually is, anyways. Anybody who does research and writes a paper, do you only have one fucking source? No, you use multiple sources. So, a professor who in the past that I had, they would just photocopy a chapter or 2 out of this book, chapter or 2 out of this book. And that would be the fucking curriculum, would be those handouts. They never made us buy a textbook. They might have us go to the bookstore though and pay like $10 for their packet, but fuck, so what? I'll pay $10 for the packet, then have to pay $200 for a textbook, like you and I are talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what's funny is like I've taught many courses, and I've actually been in many courses, obviously. And you'll buy a textbook, and it's funny that there might be like 27 chapters in the book that you bought, and you might use the book for 2 semesters. Like say you're doing psychology or something, so you use it for 101 and 121. You use that textbook, and they actually only use 12 chapters, maybe 15 in the 2 semesters that you do it. So that means you're paying for a book and you've got 10 chapters you didn't even read. So what the fuck are they there for? You paid for 10 chapters that you didn't even look at.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I mean, and you paid $200 or $300 for the fucking book. Yeah, it is making sense to me.
Yeah, and that's how it always is. When I was teaching, I teach music, and they'd buy these music textbooks, and then we'd go through it, and we might only make like 4 or 5 chapters one semester. So we'd get to like the 5th chapter, and then we'd go through the 2nd semester, and we'd get like another 3 or 4 chapters, and there might be like 18 chapters in the book. And by the end of the semester, when they have to get a new book and go on to the music 151 or 161, they would end up having to buy a new book, and we have like 8 chapters we never even looked at. And now we're going into a new book, but we have a lot of shit that we didn't even get to. And it's like it makes no sense. But the stuff the curriculum they have you teach doesn't account for those extra 8 or 18 pages, which is stupid, because the students are paying for those and they never even know they exist because they never really look at them. If the teacher doesn't say look at those pages, they'll never look at them.
Well, exactly. I mean, they gotta be concise, and they want to, they're not going to waste time looking at extraneous material. It's not going to apply to what they're tested over. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, this whole thing is. I mean, I like the points you're making, because the whole thing is a racket. It's a big money maker, and it needs to fucking stop. It's just ridiculous that they think that it's okay to do this crap with $300 textbooks, and people should just accept it. It's bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I was always telling my students when they were in classes and stuff that the most toxic word I hear in colleges is well-rounded. I hate that word. When I was going to college, there was a time where people would go to college and they would come out of college with some real skills in whatever they were going for. They would be like, if you had a master's degree, it was because you were a master in what you were studying, But now they muddy up the water so much with textbooks and things that you have to learn to get your education, and things that you're never going to use. They just say that they want you to be well-rounded in case you might ever have a chance to use what they've taught you. But by the time you get a chance to use it, it's probably going to be out of date. You're not even going to, like, the things are like stuff nobody even uses anymore. So it's just a way for them to make money off you, And it used to be at a point where, like for me, I wanted to be a music teacher, and I wanted to do psychology. So what should happen is you should be able to go to college, and you should be able to take every psychology course that you want to take that has to do with something you want to do. Like, say you want to be in, I don't know, a early childhood development psychologist or something. So you take all the children's classes and everything that has to do with children education and psychology for youth. And then when you're done with that, then you're done and you get your diploma, but they want you to do biology and trigonometry and all this other bullshit that has nothing to do with your course. And chances are, like me, I had to take all that stuff. I'm never going to use that stuff again in my life. I have no reason to use it. And that means all of that money that I spent and all those books I bought and all that time I wasted studying is for nothing. And it's for them, they're saying, oh, it's so that you're well-rounded. But what it is so that you have to pay a fucking shit ton of money, and you give those people that teach those courses a reason to exist. Because if it was up to me, I would have never taken the courses, because there's no reason for me to. I'm muddying up the water and making it harder for me to learn things that I actually want to learn, which is music and psychology. That's all I really cared about. So I'm doing all these other things, and I actually, in my college that I was in, I helped a student get her degree, because she came into college to learn veterinarian, and all she wanted to do is equestrian veterinarian. She just wanted to be a veterinarian for horses. That was it. You know, she didn't want to know about anything else. She didn't want to be dogs or nothing like that, or cows or anything. She just wanted to know the veterinary for equestrians. So she told them, she said that I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take every course that you have on horses. And once I take those courses, whether I get a degree or not, I'm going to be done. That's it. I'm not taking any other courses. I'm not taking biography, and I'm not taking history and trigonometry or any of the other stupid fucking classes. I'm only going to take equestrian classes, and then I'm leaving. So I helped her set up a program through the school that now still exists, where you can go in for equestrian veterinarian and take those courses, and then you get a degree in equestrian veterinarian, you know? So that's the way college should be. It should be efficient, where you're spending money on something that you're wanting to learn. But they're trying to tell you, like, we know that this is what you say you want to learn, but just in case, you should learn this in case you might use it someday. And it's like, if I want to use it someday, I'll come back to college and learn it. But I'm not going to waste my money, and I don't want to waste my time learning things that I'm never going to use, that I know personally I'm never going to use. Like, say I'm going to college. When I was in high school, I went to college for welding, auto mechanics, and auto body, you know? Well, when you're in college, they have you do like psychology 101 and biography and a history class and an English 121 and 101 to get a degree in auto body. You know, what the fuck do I care about psychology when I'm doing auto body? You know, it's like stupid. And they do this shit on purpose so that people have to spend money and waste your money and waste your time learning stuff that isn't going to help you in your field. You know, it's not going to have anything to do with your field, but it also, what it does is it makes it harder for you to retain information that you're trying to learn in the field that you are going to be doing. It muddies up the water to where you're wanting to focus on your field of study, which is, you know, psychology or music or auto body or whatever. But you have to think about, oh, I've got that test to turn in today, and oh, I've got to do this, and oh, I've got to do this for all this other bullshit. That all that stuff that you're worrying about to pass the course in your auto body is stuff that you don't even care about. But you have to focus so much of your attention on that so that you can get the degree. You lose a lot of your information that you're trying to learn for the course that you actually wanted to do, you know, which means when you get out of college, a lot of the stuff that you needed to learn, you might have already forgotten. And a lot of the stuff that you had to learn, you've forgotten that too, because it didn't matter to you, you know? So it's just the whole system is stupid, and it's all fucked up. And they're making it worse and worse every year, to where they're trying to say, like, oh, you need more credits in this to pass and get your degree. You have to get 67 credits, and you have to study this, and you have to study that, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. And then you'll have a major, and the amount of credits you need to get your major in whatever you're majoring in is only like 12 or 15 credits. And the rest of the shit, the 67, is all bullshit. It's all like biography and trigonometry and history and calculus and all this other bullshit that you're never going to even fucking use. And it pisses me off that kids have to do that. I see them going into debt every year, and that's why they go into debt, because they have to waste money on stupid fucking shit like that, where these colleges tell them, we want you to be well-rounded.
The fact of the matter is that when you go out to apply for a job, nobody looks at your degree or your resume or your transcript and says, well, I want to see what general studies courses this guy had, or I'm not going to hire him. That has no factor in a job at all.
Yeah, you know, and that's what's pissing me off is like the problem that these kids got. A lot of them, because of those courses, it makes it so hard for them to focus on what they're focusing on. They actually end up dropping out of college because they have to take these other courses or they can't pass. You know, in some colleges, they won't even let you take what you want. Like they say, okay, you're in your first semester, so your first semester you have to take this course, and this course for this major. So they make them take a certain course, and they're having to study these things, and then they fail them, but they still had to pay for the course. So they get them in debt, and they're taking stuff that they didn't want to take in the first place. So they didn't get to learn what they wanted to in the first place, what they went to college for, and they have debt, and they do that for 2 or 3 semesters with with their with the money they get from the government, and now all of a sudden they're $30,000 in debt, and they don't have an education, and they're working at McDonald's paying off $30,000 worth of debt, living at home with their parents, and they're 25, and they don't have a degree, and this is the problem that I have with the education system now, and this is why we have this problem, is because there's all these other bullshit courses that they force these kids to take, and they're not even learning what they really wanted to learn, because if you want them to be well-rounded, I think they should be well-rounded in the skills that they want to do for the rest of their life. If they're going to college to be a carpenter, well, then they should be well-rounded in the use of woodworking tools and building and stuff like that. Why do they need to be well-rounded in building and psychology? The fuck does that have to do with anything? And it's just a way for anybody that looks at that and says well-rounded is a fucking idiot, because all that means is money. We want you to pay for courses and classes that you're never going to use. We know that you're never going to use them in your life, and I know that I'm never going to use them in my life. What is somebody that's got an associate's degree in auto mechanics going to open up a psychology clinic? Are they going to be teaching like psychology of fucking auto mechanics or something? Like, what the fuck do you think that kid's going to do with that? But he did have to pay for those fucking credits. He did have to pay those 12 for those 12 credits. He had to pay $800.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like 55 hours of general studies courses, or 60 hours. I mean, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah, and for that much time, you're going to end up spending, credits wise. Like, say if you're getting 60 credits, you're going to end up spending about $7,000 to $8,000 per semester on those classes. So you're talking, like, if you go to a 4-year college and you're in college for 4 years doing those general studies classes, you're talking, $60,000 of classes that you're never going to even use. School books that you're buying that you're never going to, after you get done with them, the next semester they take them and turn them in, and they at the end of the semester they sell them back to the thing. They don't even want the book. They don't care. They don't want to keep it, so that they can read it later and maybe learn something, or learn some things that they didn't learn in class. They don't want it because it's shit they don't even care about. I can always tell the kids that really enjoy what they're learning by, when the time comes to sell the book back, they don't sell it back. They keep it because they want to keep it and read it and keep studying and maybe go over stuff that they already learned, just so that they continue to retain that information. If they sell it immediately at the end of the semester, that means they didn't give a fuck about the class anyways. And I see that all the time. Like 90% of the kids do that, sell the books back, because they don't give a fuck about the class, and they're learning shit that they didn't want to learn in the first place. And once they get out into the work environment, they're never going to use the shit.
One exception to that, though, and I would say a foreign language, though. If a foreign language or a general study course, I think that'd be useful, because you never know when you might need to use Spanish or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean too, though. They'll tell them you can take a foreign language, and if you're going to take a foreign language and you take it in something you're going to use, that's fine. Like, say you want to be an auto mechanic, and maybe you want to take Spanish, because if you're going to be an auto mechanic in America, it's something good that you can actually get some extra money if you know Spanish, and you might actually use that on a daily basis in America, But if you learn something like, say, Russian, well, chances of you, if you're an auto mechanic and you took Russian, chances of you using Russian as an auto mechanic in America, in 10 years you might see 3 people that you can speak Russian to. You know, I mean, it's just not going to happen. So it's, unless you're in a Russian neighborhood or something, you know, which is going to be something that would be in like New York or something maybe, you know. But I mean, it's not something you're going to be able to use. So I mean, if you're taking, that's what I mean though. If you're taking extracurricular courses in something you're actually going to use, and it's the choice of the student.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well, if you have the money to live in New York, though, you're probably not a mechanic, though, man. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying. It's like if you're taking a course and the student themselves says, this is something I want to learn because I think I will use it, not the college telling them you need to learn this because we think you'll use it. That's different. You know, when the student has the choice of saying, look, I'm learning this skill in college, but I think I can benefit with what I'm going to do with my life by learning this too. That to me is well-rounded. But why would I want to learn something? Why would I want to force something on somebody?
Speaking of that, Crypto, aren't you in college right now?
Well, I totally agree with you, Shin. Shin. I totally agree, and it's amazing to me that I always said our public education system in America is very much like a meat processing plant. It's basically one size fits all. You know, it's never about the individual needs of the student. You know what I mean? It's always about get them in, get them out, process it. You know?
Yep. And that's the problem that I'm having, that I speak a lot about with the American college system and with the skills that I have, and being a professor in America right now. The graduation rate is about 28%, which means like if you go to most colleges, 100% of the people that enroll, out of that 100%, about 28% graduate, go through the entire course and graduate. That's it. So most people drop out. And out of that 28%, 61% of those are females. And they're taking shit courses, like human studies and art and photography. They're getting degrees in stupid shit, which means a lot of the money and a lot of the time that colleges invest is not in us. It's not in STEM fields. It's not in men, because they have the idea, because of the system they've set up with these stupid classes that they want kids to take, that we're not an investment that they can make. Like, they're not going to be able to suck off you and be a succubus for 4 years. The chances of you making it past 4 semesters in college and not dropping out is rare. So they're not going to give you as much for your college. They're not going to give you as much help. But when a woman comes into the college, she's probably going to take some fluff course, and she's going to have her money given to her. And when she gets out of school, she's probably going to get married, and her husband is going to end up helping her pay the student loan back. So they're actually going to get their money back. Whereas if you're talking about a guy, he might come in for 4 semesters, end up with $15,000 to $20,000 worth of debt, and then he's going to get out, and it might take him 10 years to pay that debt off, if he ever pays it off, because he's going to be working at McDonald's,
Well, of course. And one thing I would say is that men, a lot of the times these days, are just basically, they are actually taking up the trades and actually taking online college courses. They don't want to go on college camps. They realize that colleges are worthless these days.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, the other thing too about that is some of them are smart, like MGTOW people, and they realize that if you walk onto a college campus, it's easier for some girl to say that you raped them. So staying off of college campuses is a good thing for a young man.
Well, yes, and if I had any advice, if we can get rid of this political correctness, I would opt for an all-male college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what needs to be done.
If you're going to college, you should be going there to study. I'm always telling my kids that, because they'll be in college and they'll be looking at other girls in the class and trying to slip notes to everybody, and they're not paying attention to what they're there. And that's the thing. If you're in college, you're paying for that. It's not like high school. you're actually paying for that. In some cases, thousands and thousands of dollars. You know,
Well,
if
it's
you're talking
a
about
lot of
one
these degrees
semester,
are work.
some kids that go to school here pay anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 per semester. So when you're paying that much money and then you're sitting in a class and you're trying to pass notes to some girl, it makes you want to slap them in the face and be like, dude, what's wrong with you, man? You know, you're here to study and learn, and you're worried about pussy. You know, worry about that shit
Well,
when you get out of class.
yeah, I would say that is that it basically is like this. Is that is that I think there are men who do want to better themselves. Okay.
Yeah,
But they're seeing that. I think Frank Zappa said it best. If you want to get laid, go to college.
yeah,
If you want to basically get an education, go to the library.
yep, exactly. Well, that has to do with a lot about the teachers, though, too. Like I was talking earlier. You know, it's if you have a good teacher, that you can learn. You know, but a lot of the teachers now, because of the way the system is set up, they don't have any like heart in it anymore, and they just don't want to.
Well, and they don't have to compete.
They don't want to teach the way they used to. They don't have any drive to do it better and to have the kids actually learn. They just don't give a fuck anymore.
Well, and let's be honest, they don't have to compete in an open market. Okay.
Yeah.
They have guaranteed job security. I mean,
Yeah, they got
teachers
tenure
unions,
going
shit
on
like
and all
that.
that shit.
Yeah, you look at the teachers unions, and you look at how public schools are set up. It's basically like if you don't,
Well,
it's
what? You
gonna
know
be,
what? Fuck you on that one. They fucking deserve tenure. You deal with all those
Yeah.
fucking kids all fucking day and their fucking parents telling you that it's your fault that their son or daughter can't fucking learn. You have no idea what it's like, man. I mean, they get fucked over royally all the fucking time, and you want to take some jobs
every day.
You're lucky anybody wants that fucking job to begin with.
Yeah, especially the way they treat you nowadays.
well, let me make myself
becoming
clear.
harder and harder to teach.
You've never been on the other side of it. You don't even know what you're talking about.
Most of the people that teach nowadays
If
are
you
women.
don't have, let me make it clear. If you have to, it basically, if you don't have,
And it's a career path in which women are trying to fuck guys over all the time, and as well, isn't that right, dude?
Yeah,
Japanese.
over 71% of teachers in the world, it's closer to 80% now, are females. So if you want to work as a teacher, first of all, you're going to have to put up with the stereotype that especially if you're teaching younger children under the 6th grade level, you're thought of as a pedophile just because
there's a lot of women
just because you're a
around.
man trying to teach children. And then as you get older in older classes, then they start trying to say that you have to deal with basically a lot of feminists because you're going to have
That's what I mean, though. That's why it's good to have tenure for the male teachers. If they don't have tenure, then that female principal or that female superintendent could fuck you over. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing with it as well. It's very hard for a male in teaching circles nowadays to get tenure because a lot of the times in schools nowadays, the principal is a female, and if you go into most high schools in America, at least 80% of the school, 70 to 80% of the school, there will be female teachers. And what they tend to do with the men, because they know about the tenure thing, they try to move them around to different schools, and they don't keep them on the same school. When they think they're getting around to the point where they're going to get tenure, they move them to another district, and they kind of move them around so they don't get tenure. And they do that shit on purpose so that men don't get tenure, but women do. They watch women's back, but fuck a dude.
And that's interesting enough as it is. This is the reason why homeschooling is becoming very popular.
Yeah. That just means your mom's going to be teaching you everything. That's all that means. That's not a
well,
good.
yeah, but still, I think a lot of it is the reason for the homeschooling is because of the whole. They're not teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic in public schools anymore. They're teaching basically political correctness.
Yep.
That's all they're really teaching anymore. I mean,
that's because feminists are at the helm now. Yeah. That's why our society is fucked the way it is right now.
I totally agree, and it does. It's the reason why you have a male dropout rate in high schools that's very high, and they go to community colleges. They're just tired of the feminist setup, and I've talked to young men, and they just don't like it. This is a reason why they don't like colleges, and they actually get online degrees or something. And it's
Yeah,
something that's
I've seen.
tangible.
I see more men dropping out and going into fields like welding and auto mechanics and auto body, and they'll drop out of high school at 16, and they'll get a job at like Walmart or McDonald's or something like that, and then they'll go to college and they'll get a degree in just that kind of stuff, auto body welding, and they can actually have a decent life. You know, if you're an auto body man, you can make $25,000-$30,000 a year. If you're a welder, depending on what kind of welder you are, if you're a TIG welder, shit, you can make fucking $60,000-$70,000 a year, depending on what you do. So it's a good life, you know. And some of these kids will, you know, get out of college by the time they're 18 or 19 years old. They have like a degree in welding, and they go out and get a welding job, and by the time they're 25, they got a house and a nice car and shit. So they got a good life. And then some bitch takes a hold of them and takes their kids, and now they're homeless.
Well, yeah, and the point is here is that, you know, a lot of times, well, we know there's a rising trend in men that they don't want to get married. They're not interested in long-term relationships in the West, you know what I mean? And in Japan. But the one thing we are seeing is, yeah, men getting into STEM field, men getting into, like, the trades.
You there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that men are trying to find ways to survive in this harsh environment that's unnatural.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been natural, but the things, like I say, that they have less, when you go into a college now, there's less of a reason for them to give governmental funding to men, because they know that a big portion of the people who are going to stay in their college and graduate in their college are going to be females. And they know that they're going to turn out, you know, photography students and art majors and psychologists and nurses and beauticians and, you know, nail care specialists and just stuff like that. So those are what they focus on, because those are the people that stay in their college and stay in their college for a long time. And that, you know, the college doesn't look very good if everybody that comes to their college drops out, you know. So everybody that comes to their college just gets debt and never gets any degrees. So that's why they try to focus a lot of their attention on keeping females in college and keeping females in money. And they don't give a fuck about the men, because they already know that most of the men aren't going to graduate. And they won't graduate because of the way they set up the system. The system is up for them to fail.
Yeah. Well, they don't offer anything to the men.
Exactly.
There's nothing there for the men at all.
It's there for the women. And the only thing women do in college is get a fluff degree while they search for those men that are graduating. The guys that are staying in there and graduating, because they're going to be there for 4 years taking their courses and stuff, getting their associates and, you know, bachelors and stuff like that. And they're looking for that guy that actually is going to graduate. And those are the guys they'll attach themselves to. And then when they get their degree and he's still going to college, they tag off of him and he becomes their ATM machine. And that's the only reason why most women are in college.
I believe the college bubble is going to pop eventually, and the colleges are going to be like wastelands. Yep. You know, they're going to be like, you know, like something, because I think that they're destroying themselves. They're slitting their own throats.
Well, they just keep raising and raising rates, because I remember seeing something that something about the college amount for curriculum has went up like 380% since like 1977, but the economy, the amount of money that people make, has like decreased by 52% by the economy. The way the economy has fluctuated, the amount of money that we make as opposed to the economy, what it's adjusted since 1977, is nowhere near to the growth of the economy. Like this year, most companies have had record growth, like record profits, you know, like Walmart and all these Exxon Mobils and all these companies that say, oh, we can't raise people's wages, you know, we can't give them $15 an hour. These guys have had record profits this year, making billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And then they say, yeah, but if we give them, you know, $15 an hour, then we're going to be in debt, which is complete horseshit. That's not the case. The fact is, if they gave them $15 an hour, instead of them making $23 billion this year, they might make $21 billion, you know, and they just don't want to lose that extra couple $1 billion.
It's crazy. They're money junkies. That's never enough for them. I mean, but
and that's all it is. A lot of people act like McDonald's, who has like 27,000 locations around the world, can't afford to pay the kids enough to pay for an apartment, pay for their car, and pay for their cell phone bill and buy some food. Like you should do if you're working 40 hours a week. Like, I forget who it was. I think it was Ron Paul that said it. If you're working 40 hours a week, no matter what you're doing, if you're working 40 hours a week at full time, you should be able to pay for a life. You know?
Well, yes, of course.
You should be able to buy food. You should be able to pay rent. You should be able to have at least a studio apartment, and you should be able to have a car, gas, and you should be able to have a decent life and maybe be able to save a little bit of money. If you can't even do that, and you have to stay at home with your parents, and you're only making like $8 an hour, and you can barely afford your phone bill, and you have to take the bus to work, and you're working 40 hours a week still, and you're on food stamps, that's fucking retarded. Anybody that can say that's perfectly fine, that's dumb.
Oh, it is dumb. What's interesting to me is that McDonald's is losing a lot of revenue these days.
Well,
from what I've heard,
they've shut a bunch of shops, even here in Japan. I heard they closed in England. They closed like 85 stores.
It's because of how bad their food is. It's like
everybody's figured it out. I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan for 26 years, and there's a lot of people that are realizing a lot of these fast food restaurants are the worst places you can eat, and there's a lot of people that aren't going to them anymore. There's
in America,
more people every day that are becoming vegan and vegetarian, and they're just not going to those restaurants.
Okay, I was first to tell you I'm not a vegan, but I do believe in eating wholesome foods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the difference.
Well, when they don't get anybody going there, a lot of people don't realize how easy it is for you to fucking change your world. You know, like people are always talking about, you know, I don't have any power over these huge, massive companies. Well, if they open up like a big time Walmart in a area that you have, and every time they open up these Walmarts and these big stores, all the little guys close. All the people that are people you've known your whole life. You know, people that might have a hardware store or something, and they open up a home.
It's very simple.
And all of a sudden, that guy that's had his store there for 50 years now has to close because nobody's going to his store anymore. The easiest way to stop that from happening is just don't shop there. If they've got 37 employees that work at their store and nobody's going in there, after about a month, all the shit that's on their shelves, especially if it's like a Walmart or something, is bad, and none of their stuff is selling. There's dust on everything. Nobody's going in there. They can't afford to pay their employees, and they have to close. That's how hard it is for you to change your life. People are so lazy. They say, well, Walmart, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go shop. And there's so many people that are like, I hate fucking Walmart. They close. They turn your town into shit, and all the local businesses shut. Just don't shop there. That's how easy it is. Stop shopping there.
What I'm trying to say, yes, and that's what I do. I buy local from local businesses. That's a trend that's going on in America, buying local.
You've got to buy local to keep your money local. If you buy from Walmart, you're actually sending your money. You're paying people in China and Taiwan and Indonesia, and you're sending American jobs. You're basically saying, I believe in sending American jobs and all of our money to a foreign country.
Exactly.
Instead of keeping your money in your state, keeping your state taxes, all of your money you should be trying to keep in the state so that you can keep the wealth in the state. And all you're doing by paying for Walmart is, in some cases, there might be like a company in your state, many companies that do honey, that make honey. And you're buying honey from Walmart that was made in like Florida. You know, what's the
Well,
fucking?
it reminds me of what's going on with the vaccine manufacturers. No one wants to take vaccines anymore because they're shit,
Yeah,
because they're toxic,
yeah.
and
They're
but
still trying to convince people to do it.
but here's the deal: basically years ago, Reagan bailed out the vaccine companies, basically giving them liability protection for
Yep,
all basically the damage they cause. And
yep,
so what happens is that, well, no one wants to take your product now. No one wants to take your product anymore. You know what I mean?
yep.
Your product. No one wants to give their kids vaccines anymore. So what do? They try to make laws like in California, to make your kids take vaccines. It's basically they're trying to force you to take a product that no one wants to take anymore.
Yep. Yep.
I think other companies are going to try that model if
Yeah.
they to keep
They're
from
trying to
going
make
on.
laws to force people to do it, which is basically against the law. You know, it's against the Constitution. Shouldn't be able to do that.
Well, yeah, they've
But
already passed this.
they're basically paying. They're saying like we made a law that we can poison your kids if we want to.
Yeah,
You know, we can give them any vaccination that we feel is safe, even though it might have, you know, it might be made by Monsanto. You know, it might have pesticides in it or something. Who knows?
yeah,
But we think it's safe because we're being paid off by that company. So we're being paid to give this to your kids, and because we made the law, we're going to give it to your kids whether you like it or not.
yeah. It just seems like I think I would hate to say that other companies that are in what we're seeing in America is basically this: if a company isn't doing well and business wise, and this is totally goes against the concept of free market in my opinion. They go to the government, lobby the government to shut down the competition. That's pretty much how it's been. Even Ayn Rand talked about this, predicted this, that they would have lobbyists, for the government to help them survive. So it's no longer about competing in a free market and actually providing a product that's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Now it's about, screwing over your competition by lobbying the government to make rules against them so you can thrive and they don't.
yeah,
So a lot of times the products we get is shitty. You know what I mean? Because they don't have to compete. They don't have to produce quality, you know? Because because they can always shut down the guy that creates the better product.
yeah. That's that's how the whole system is set up. You know, it's set up like that, where they want to be able
It,
to fuck people over.
it didn't start out like that. It used to
No.
be about, a lot of people like to say, a lot of like leftists like to say that we're a capitalist society, right? Not
Yeah,
when half your GDP is government in the United States.
yeah,
Okay?
exactly. Yeah, most of it is propped up by the government and big banks, big world banks. And it's mostly bullshit too. That's what's funny. The
Yeah, it's
GDP in
too big to
America,
fail.
it's mostly bullshit. You know, because like when you go to a bank and you get like a loan from the bank, they will do silly shit like you know, give you a loan, and you say like you want $10,000, so they just put something into the bank, like a you know, put 10 grand in your bank account, but that money is fiction. It doesn't actually exist. But when you pay it back and the interest, that exists. So that's how they do their whole system. It's like fake money, but the money you have to pay back, that's real. So it's like me giving both of you, you know, a $10,000 loan, and I'm just saying, okay, you have $10,000. I've given you $10,000. Now you can go out and spend it, but I want you to pay me back 10,000 plus 20% interest. So
Yeah.
I didn't actually give you anything. You know, I just gave you a line of credit, but the money you pay me back, that's real money. You know, that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's how their system works. Their system works on a fiction. You know, it's fictional money that doesn't exist, but
Oh, I totally agree.
the money you owe them is real. But the money they gave you is fiction.
Yeah, and that's the point. I think there's a lot of, I think one thing that's happening. We talked about how the Asian mind, like for example, the Asian or Japanese mindset is very different than basically a Westerner's mindset. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have a history of being, of standing our ground when someone pushes us around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not in the Asian mindset. You
Yeah.
know, what, what do you think about that?
Um, I, I think it's I I think it's harder for a lot of the Asians to not be pushed around because that's just the way you are raised. You know, here is they're taught from a very young age to do that, to be like to kind of put up with a lot of shit. You know, a lot more than they have to go through in America. And by doing that at a very young age, it actually teaches them to be a little bit more resilient and a little less safe spacey. You know, I need my safe space, and I need my pillow and all this kind of shit. You know, I need my someplace to cry on. You know,
Well, yeah, of
so it,
course, but at the same time, well, I think it's the rebellious nature of Western, well, like Western people that it's
yeah.
basically we're not going to tolerate anybody telling us what to do. Kind of attitude is different than the Asian attitude.
Well, that's the thing with here. They don't have that arrogance about them. They don't have that like holier than thou. I'm so important. I've everything I do is great. You know, kind of thing. They want to go along with the way they're taught at a very young age is that you're part of society and your job is to help society. You know, and that we should work as one cohesive unit to get somewhere. And that's why when they work for companies and they have a strong idea that you should help the company grow and that you should be working for the company. And when you work in American companies, I've seen this my whole life, even when I hire guys onto my shops, they don't have any loyalty. And they always have this huge, massive fucking chip on their shoulder, this big fucking ego where I'm so important and I'm so great and everything I do is so awesome. And if I quit this job, there's everybody's gonna like they're gonna think I'm so awesome and I can't be replaced. You
Well,
know,
that depends on where
and that's
you
just
go.
something that you don't ever see. I've never ever seen that in Japan, ever.
Well, I understand that at the same time, but I don't think. For example, I'm an American. I don't have a massive ego, but when someone pushes me around, I'm going to push back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's just not
That's
something you see here in Japan. Like
uh,
if somebody yells at you at a job here in Japan, especially if they're somebody that's older than you, or somebody that's been at the company longer than you, they just take it. It's
Yeah.
criticism. It's criticism, and they feel the guy is telling you something that is true. It's not. But in America, it's like anybody that gives you any criticism about what you're doing is a fucking asshole. And that's just how
Yeah.
they are. They just have this idea that you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me anything, even if you've worked at the job that you're working on for 18 years. If you start telling
Yeah.
some kid that's worked there for a year how to do their job, all of a sudden they treat you like you're an asshole because you know what the fuck you're doing, and they
I
don't,
understand that
and
there's
and
that
they just start
arrogance.
getting this attitude about it. But here in Japan, you might just start on a job, and because I've been doing my job for over 26 years, I've been building cars. So if I do body work here in Japan, they look at my resume and they tell the guys, this guy knows what the fuck he's doing, and you might be able to learn something from him. When I come out in the shop, none of us have an ego. And they might come over and see me doing something and say, what are you doing? How do you do that? What do you do? And they're very into learning, and they don't have this ego where like
Well,
I've worked here longer
yeah,
than you,
like,
so I'm great. You know,
well,
they
I
just
don't,
Well,
don't
I
how
have
don't,
that
about
idea.
constructive?
but you're putting all Americans like that. We all have massive egos. I don't believe that. I don't have a massive ego.
No,
I, I,
like
I know
not
there's
all of
some
them
things
do,
I'm not.
but in the fields that I'm talking about, like mechanics, auto body, welding, construction, these fields, these are highly masculine fields where men, I'm not talking about like in office jobs or IT or stuff like this. I'm talking about like masculine jobs. These guys are very macho, and they are kind of like alpha. And when you get in their territory, they're just like they want to piss on everything and whip their dick out and tell you how big it is. So they have this idea that I'm awesome and everything I do is awesome and you can
Well,
never learn what I know. And you can't because they hide it. They try to not show you everything you need to do so that as soon as you fuck up, they can show you what you fucked up on instead of telling you before you
This
fuck,
is another case.
you know. And it's really a fucked up way to teach in America. But that's how they do in these fields where you'll start working for a mechanic shop or something. And you'll get a car in, and the guy that's worked there for 10 years, you'll ask him, how do I do this, or what tools do I use, or I don't have that tool, can I borrow yours? And they'll give it to you, but then they won't show you how to use it, and then you'll fuck something up, and then they'll say it's your fault. You know? Are you guys there? Hello? Oh, okay. I was gonna say, yeah.
I'm back. I understand this. Sometimes it's about the ego.
Yeah.
But yeah, but there's two extremes here. Okay, when it comes to what you described, they're very passive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
willing. You know what I mean? That's only the problem they got. Is that I know they're very humble people, the Japanese,
Yeah.
but they're very passive. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they're very passive, but the reason why they're like that in work is because they're willing to learn.
But they seem to be like that in all
If you
forms of
literally
life.
know more than them, then they will accept that. But in America, even if you know more than them, most of the time they won't listen to you. It's very hard to get Americans that work in jobs, any job, to listen to somebody that knows what they're talking about. They get an attitude like, "Why are you telling me how to do my job?" And it's like, "Well, I'm telling you because I know what the fuck I'm doing. I've been doing it for years. Maybe you might want to listen to me." And
I
they get this
understand
big, they
that
get this big
I understand that.
attitude, like you can't teach them anything, even though maybe you've done that job for 8 years in that company, and you'll try to teach them something, and for the first few months, you'll teach them some things, and then you'll try to continue to teach them things, and then after a while, they get a smart aleck attitude, like they already know everything they need to know. I don't need to learn anything else, and it's
Well,
like then they start fucking shit up, and then your boss starts looking at you. Why didn't you teach him how to do that? And I'm like, well, the fucking guy didn't want to learn it. I kept trying to teach him, but he's an asshole. And it always
Well, I
falls on you.
understand that. I understand that that yes, there's a little bit of ego in basically in some of the manly work fields. I get it. You know what I mean? But
Well,
there's
that's why I
also
love working here in Japan. It's I've never ever encountered that. I've lived in Japan, like I was saying earlier. In January, I'll be living in Japan for 11 years. And at all the companies that I've worked at, no matter what it was, I've done all kinds of things here. I've sold cars in auctions. I've worked in mechanic shops, worked in auto body shops, painted buildings, done construction work, taught in English schools, worked with Japanese people, foreign people, everything like that. Even the foreigners that work here in Japan. I've never seen that here in Japan, ever. Not even once.
well,
And
I
and it's
understand.
like every job I've worked on in America, every job, I've seen it from almost everybody in the job.
Mm.
You know, and I've worked hundreds and hundreds of jobs in the United States, and every job I've worked on, there's like everybody in the job is like this.
Well, we're very individualistic. That's the reason why. You know what I mean?
And it's
So
a
it's
good
about
thing, but it's also a bad thing. It's a good thing for the person, but it's a bad thing for the company. You know, for a company to succeed, you need people to actually be part of the company. And the problem with a lot of Americans are they aren't a part of the company. They're not working to try to succeed and make the company bigger and better. they're just working so that they can go home and drink a beer. And that's just not how we look at it in Japan. Japanese people don't look at jobs that way. They look at jobs as like, I want this company to succeed, because the more they succeed, the better I'll be living my life, the longer I'll be working for this company, the longer this company will exist, and I'll have tenure here, and maybe I can retire from this company someday, and I can teach other people
Well,
to do what I'm doing. And
I get
it's a thing like that. But in America, it's just like, I'm working on this job, and I'm so important, and I'm so great, and if I quit this job, I can get another job just like it tomorrow, and nobody can do what I do. And that's not a concept that we have here in Japan. You'll never see anybody like that.
Jobs that having a more, having a less ego-driven mindset is good. I understand. I'm an American. I'm not ego-driven, so I'm willing to do what needs to be done. Work with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I do. I'm not a typical American in that sense. I'm not like ego-driven, because I've been through a lot. You know what I mean? And so I look at things in a more humble way these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's good to have that attitude. Like the Japanese have attitude when it comes to working, but when it comes to putting up with other things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they don't have, like us, that rebellious spirit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where other things in life, that it's good to have that, like, go along to get along attitude for, for work, you know what I mean? What I think the biggest problem that they have is that they don't understand that you can't have that and other aspects of life, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
So
it's just how they're taught here in Japan. They teaching in schools and stuff, you very rarely, I'd say after second grade or so, you very rarely see children fight in school. It's just not a thing that happens here. And they're taught at a very young age that you shouldn't fight. You shouldn't. That's not the way you deal with conflict. That's not conflict resolution. You don't fight. So they yell and scream, but you never push. So I'll see guys working in my companies and my shops and stuff here in Japan, and they'll yell at each other sometimes or something like that. But usually somebody will yell and the other person will listen to them and they'll take it, and then once they're done yelling, it's over. And whether they took the criticism or whatever, it doesn't matter, because whatever was said and it's over, and let's move on with our life.
I understand that. But yeah, I understand that argument and everything like that. What I don't understand is that, unlike us, there's a lot of things that American men will not take from that they want, that even how bad our government is, certain things that they simply will not try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of our rebellious spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Compared to, let's say, Japanese, they seem to be wanting to put up with more from their governments, like,
Yeah. Well, even the government, though, there's some higher ups in the government that, they're kind of, they are what they are, but a lot of the lower guys, even the president, even the prime minister of Japan, they go through so many of them. Like when I first moved here in 2000, in the year 2000 to 2002, there were 4 different prime ministers, because they're not actually elected by us. They're actually elected by higher ups, the guys that are above, that are in the government. That's who actually selects them. So they'll select one, and then he'll be the prime minister, and he'll say something or do something that they don't like, and they'll get rid of him, and they'll get another one.
Well,
that's how the system works here.
Well, that's what they do here, except it's not as open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't openly do that in the United States.
Yeah, but they can't, like, if they've elected a president like, say, Obama, 2 years or even 6 months into his administration, they can't say, like, we don't like him, we're going to get rid of him and get somebody else and not throw a vote.
Not having to actually assassinate him like they did Kennedy.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what they do here. They don't even have a vote. They just say, like say you put Obama up, and then he's in office for 6 months, and then he says something, and you go, I don't like what you just said. We're going to get rid of you, and we're going to put Hillary Clinton in. You know, that's basically what they do here in Japan. They did that 4 times in 2 years. You know, so that's our system here. It isn't. It's more of like a communist system. A lot of people think Japan is like, you know, like America, but it's not. You know, it's basically like a communist system masquerading as not a communist system.
I think when you always adopt socialist policies, okay, in every society, it always fucks up the society. We've seen that happen in Russia. Socialism never works. Know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think Japan is starting to see that because their numbers are down. They've adopted socialism, and look where it got them.
Yeah. Well, they've been doing it for years, though. They've had the same system since, you know, the 20s, basically. You know, they made it to where the king and queen over here, they had a like a, you know, an emperor, and the emperor says they basically, the way the system is set up, they say that the emperor really has no say in what goes on in the government or with Japan even. Yet they still, you know, when the emperor marries and when the emperor has babies and, you know, things like that, they're still in the news all the time. And there's many times when they'll go to elect somebody or something like that, or they'll go to make a law, and the emperor will say no, and they won't do it. Yet they still hold up the claim that the emperor.
Kind of like in England, they say the royal family has no power, but they can dissolve parliament if they don't vote the way the queen wants.
They say that, but it's not true. And it's the same thing that's going on here in Japan. You know, the prime minister really doesn't have much power. You know, the government is the upper class government guys are the ones that have the power. The guys that have been in office for years and years, and the guys that they think are going to make good prime ministers are who gets elected. And if they don't like them,
it's very much like that in America, where you have kingmakers, where they don't say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get like the illusion in America that we have a choice, but that illusion is starting to go away.
Yeah.
They're very much choose.
I was in the Occupy over there, and one of the things that I thought should be enacted in Japan, in America, is that you should only be able to, just like in the presidency, you should only be able to be a congressman or a senator or a governor for 8 years. And once you've done that, that's it. You're done.
And I totally agree. You have these old guys, right? And they're from the baby boomer generation, most of them are.
Well, even like Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy was in a senator for like 45, 50 years. You know,
what I get tired of,
guys that are the judges, those Supreme Court judges. Some of those guys have been Supreme Court judges for like 50 years.
I don't understand this. You have these old, flaccid politicians.
Yeah.
That don't. You can't even relate to them because they're from a different.
How are you going to change anything in the United States? How are you going to help people when you have people that grew up in like the 1940s who are running the government? You know, these guys don't know nothing about what we're going through now. They don't even care about it. They've got millions and millions of dollars because they've been in government for 60 years. They don't give a shit.
Exactly.
You know?
But you know, you put younger people in there. Let's say Rand Paul. Rand Paul comes in there. He has new ideas. He's from Gen X. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He's from a newer generation, and basically every politician in the Beltway hates his guts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I say too. Like if you made the law to where you could only be in government for eight years, basically, that's all you could do is 8 years, and then it would be to the point where there's 400 million Americans, and you would have to give other people the chance. A lot of these big wealthy families, within a few years, you'd run out of those wealthy families because nobody else would be left. And they would have to start electing normal people because the government.
One thing that Americans are getting sick and tired of is presidential dynasties. They're getting sick and tired of the Bushes. You know what I mean?
Well, that's one reason that got me to leave. All these people that are talking about Hillary and Jeb Bush, you know, and it's like, what the fuck, you know? And it's like we went Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and now we're going to go back to Clinton and Bush. It's like, what the fuck? Are we making a dynasty?
Yeah, and the one thing that I think Americans are sick of it. That's the reason why I hate to say it. This is the reason why Trump is so popular, is because he's. I don't really trust Trump because of his history, but I know people can change and everything, but he seems to have balls. You know what I mean? He's not like your typical politician because he's not from the political class. You know what I mean?
Worse. People, if anybody elects him, they're idiots. He's worse than that. He said it himself. He's the guy that used to pay everybody. So what do you think is going to happen when he gets into office? He's the guy that used to pay everybody to do shit. Now he's the guy that doesn't have to pay anybody to do shit. He can just make laws so that all his buddies and all his cronies can make money. He can change the tax laws because he's the president. He can make wars to make his friends money. You know, all his friends in Halliburton and all these guys that want to make money off of war, he can start a war because he's the fucking president. He doesn't have to pay anybody. He is that guy. So why would you want to elect the guy that used to pay people to do shit for him? Now he's the president and he can do it himself. He doesn't have to pay anybody.
What I'm seeing, okay, from what I'm seeing,
worse than the fucking guys that are in office.
He wants to strengthen the economy. You know, he's tired of
He's not going to strengthen anything but his pocketbook. That's all he's there to do.
Well, yeah, I would say Rand Paul is good. The problem is with Rand Paul, he doesn't have any like chutzpah. You know what I mean? He doesn't have any.
I wouldn't vote for Rand Paul either.
What?
The only person that's worth voting for is Bernie Sanders.
I don't vote for him. He's a socialist. I'm looking for that leader that's got both chutzpah and it's about freedom and liberty. You know what I mean? It's about scaling back the size of the government. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, he'll probably be killed. You know what I mean? If he tries to implement it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's why I left. I'd rather be here where there's no bullshit, you know? Like, people here know what's up with the government. There's no hiding.
But they don't care.
Yeah, they don't give a shit. They already know they don't have any say in anything, so they don't really give a fuck anyways. They just live their life and go along with their life, and whatever happens, happens, and nobody really gives a fuck, you know? So, I like that, you know? At least it's all out in the open, and there's no bullshit of people thinking they know something that really doesn't exist, you know? And that's what I like. There's a lot of people in America that think they know what's going on with the government. They think they know what's going on with laws. They think they know what's going on with the police. They think they know what's going on with everything. And the fact is they don't know what's going on with anything. You know, they just know what Fox News has told them.
Well, and I don't follow mainstream media at all. But what I can say about all this is that I think a lot of things. I think there will come a day when. Look, socialism isn't going to work, so Bernie Sanders is out of contention.
Well, that's the thing that you guys don't understand. Bernie Sanders isn't trying to make socialism. He's saying that a lot of the systems that we have in the United States are socialist. And what he's saying is he's a libertarian socialist because some of the stuff he thinks shouldn't be part of the government. You know, but then other things we already have that's part of the government, which is like Social Security. Social Security is socialism. It's basically other people paying for you. The government regulates that. A lot of the things that are government regulated, like fire departments, police departments, you know.
Well, I'm for ending government regulation.
That's all socialism.
Yeah, I'm for, and I totally agree.
And that's what he wants. He wants to strengthen moderate socialism. He doesn't want to make the country socialist. He's saying that some of the stuff that's in America is socialist already.
Well, I totally agree with him in that sense, but what I'm for is rolling back socialism. And,
so is he. Everything that you're talking about, he wants to do as well. He's talking about making government smaller, getting rid of a bunch of laws, getting rid of a bunch of bullshit that the government has enacted, getting rid of all kinds of shit, and everybody hears socialism, and they fucking run for the hills and try to vote for fucking Hillary Clinton. or some other stupid.
I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. No one wants to vote for Hillary Clinton.
I know, but there's so many people that try to say shit like that. But what I'm saying is,
No
like,
one wants to.
there's what I look at when I look at somebody like Bernie Sanders is like, maybe he's like religious, which he's actually an atheist, but like, say everything he's saying is right, but he's got like two things that he's doing that I don't like. So I'm not going to vote for him on those two fucking things, you know, which is stupid. Because when he gets elected, he's going to make so much progress and do so much good for the country, but he's got those two little things that I don't like. Ah, fuck him. You know, I'd rather elect another fucking Obama that's not going to do shit for anybody because he doesn't have those two little things that I don't like. So it's fucking stupid. It's like, look at the total amount of what this guy's going to do. He's been working since the 1960s for equality, for like blacks and gays and lesbians and bisexuals, and he's been working for like 60 years to do that, to help people, to help the United States, to help working class, and to help blue collar workers, and to help like teachers unions, and to help fucking people for his whole fucking career. And then you got like something stupid, and people are like, well, I want to vote for a fucking Nazi fucking idiot that all he wants to do is make billions of dollars, and he's going to use the government till to do it. You know, they would rather elect a fucking guy like that.
When it comes to Trump, I think there's some things he's very honest about, and I think that some things he's not. Trump said it best, is that a lot of times when you're a businessman, if you don't do business with the government, if you don't play hardball with the government, they'll shut you down. You know what I mean? It's gotten that bad where you can't have, you know, an honest business. You can't basically build yourself up without having the government saying, well, you know, if you don't do this and this, we'll shut you down. That's the way it is in America. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he has so much stuff that he's lied about. The guy's a fucking liar, you know. He says he started his companies, and you know, I've worked my way from the ground up. He went through bankruptcy 5 times, even though,
you know, I am not for it. I'll be first to tell you.
$200 million to start his company. His father gave him $200 million to start his company, and gave him like $1 million when he was in high school, when he was only 17 years old, to start a company.
To be honest with you,
he had a $200 million head start, and he still filed bankruptcy 5 times. You know, and then we want him to run our company, which is America.
To be honest with
it makes
you,
no sense.
To be honest with you, Shin,
That's what he's going to do. He's going to run America like a company, and he's already talked about starting wars. America's in fucking debt. We don't need any more wars. We need to stop fighting wars, bring the troops home, and start giving money to try to help some of these 1.6 million children that are going to sleep every night with no food.
To be honest with you, Shin, I'm not pro. I think gay rights is a ridiculous notion, for starters, because it's not a logical kind of thing for me, because you have rights that are naturally, you know, guaranteed under the Constitution. I mean, I'm not a fan of these collective rights, like group rights. So, I'm a friend.
You would think that, but let me pose this to you then. Say you wanted to adopt a child, and you adopted a child, you know, and then somebody came and told you that you couldn't have the child because you're straight. Do you think that would ever happen to you?
No.
Well, that just happened to a gay couple. Two gay women adopted a child because it was legal, because they made marriage legal, and a court judge went against the Constitution and said that he thought that the child that they adopted would be better off with a straight couple, and took their kid away. And then because they got so much backlash from that, he reneged on what he said and gave the kid back to them. That would never happen to a fucking straight couple.
Actually, it does happen sometimes.
That will happen a lot of the time with a gay couple. It might happen once or twice with the fucking straight couple because one of the people might be a drug addict or have
A lot
something
of
in the
straight
past.
couples have good chill have like these couples. For example, I tell you some stories about CPS and what they do. You know, for example,
I was in child care when I was a kid. I was a foster kid. I know what goes on.
well, at the same time, so it's not necessarily. So I am just for basically individual rights, the rights of the
Yeah, but
individual.
to say that they have individual rights, they first have to be allowed to have those rights. And if you don't have those rights, then you don't have them. You know, the whole point of them having legal gay marriage
I'm
was
not
because,
for anyone having special rights over
well, that's
other
the thing.
people.
It's not special rights. It's just the same rights that you have. If I want to marry, if I'm gay and I want to marry somebody else that's gay, I should have that right
Well, I
because
would ask
if I
you if
die, I should be able to leave my wealth and my
you
stuff to my spouse. If you're not
well,
married, you can't.
I would ask you the
If I'm
question
if
here.
I'm if I'm gay and my spouse is gay and my spouse gets cancer and ends up in the hospital, in many cases I can't even go into the hospital room unless I'm family
Okay, let me
or
talk.
the
Okay,
wife or the husband. And that
okay,
happens
let me
all the
say.
time. That would never happen in a straight male, in a straight
Well,
couple, because
well,
they have the right.
let
And
me
you don't
explain
have
it.
the right if you're gay.
Well, let me explain this.
That's
Okay,
just basic
it
rights.
wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that government has gotten their claws into marriage in the first place. What happened is they
They have
turned
to, because if
marriage
you
from
left it up to the
religion.
state, it wouldn't be allowed. There's so
No,
many
no,
fucking
no.
bigoted fucking idiots, especially down in fucking the South. You know, you go down in Florida and places like that where they're actually killing gays for fun. You know, and they're fucking
Well,
killing. I applied
let
for
me.
refugee status here 6 weeks ago, and in the 6 weeks since I applied, 7 transgender people have been killed in the United States. It's fun for people. They just go out and shoot people. There was one girl that got shot in a fucking mall. She was walking through the mall, minding her own business with her friend, and some guy in the mall shot her in the head and fucking killed her. Another girl was driving down the street in her car.
Well,
Some guy
let
drove
me
by
explain
and
it to
shot her
you.
in the head just
You're
because she
not
was
letting me
transgender.
talk. You're not letting me talk, man. Okay, let me explain it. Okay, the government has gotten their claws into marriage, and they created marriage license. Now, marriage used to be a private contract between two consenting adults, and it used to be a religious ritual, and that was all it was. It wasn't regulated by the government. The minute you got the government regulating marriage, okay, and that's what happened a lot of times, and it was done to stop interracial marriages.
Yeah.
It basically gave government basically in their foot in the door to basically start controlling the personal lives of its citizens. That's how it happened.
Yeah, but it's that the problem that you have now is that the country is so fundamentalist Christian and religious that if you took that power away from the government and gave it back to the states, gay marriage would, in many states, would be gone. Free, like the rights to everybody to marry whoever you want to marry. You know, I don't believe that the government should have the right to do that. But if the state you're living in thinks they have the right to tell you who you can and can't love and who you can and can't
Well,
marry, so
I
that you
would
have the
say
right, the same
that
right that everyone else has, which is like the right to be married and be able to see your family, or to get governmental benefits that you would get if you were married, you know, to a straight person. It's not it's not special. It's the same shit that you get. If you're married to a
well,
woman, all they're asking for is if they marry same sex that they get the same exact shit that you get. And right now they don't. That's all they're
well,
saying. And the
I would
problem is they think it's special. They think it's special stuff because they're asking for the same shit you got. And it's not. Right now
well,
they
I
don't
would
have
say
anything. Right now they got shit. And all they're asking for is, can I please at least have what you have? Can I have
no.
a
I would
marriage?
say this is that
Can I get governmental benefits? Can I get the same acknowledgement under the law that you have as a straight person? That's all they're asking for.
oh
They're not asking for
well
anything special. But they can't.
Well, I would
that.
say
People are
this is
fighting them all the
that.
fucking way.
Let me explain it. I would say this is that, as you know, marriage is not exactly the best. A lot of men aren't getting married in the West, so you're basically, and a lot of men are getting screwed over in divorce court, and
Yeah.
that's exactly, and that's what you want. You want the same that straight men have been getting, like the shaft.
Well, I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best because if everybody had the exact same shit and lesbians are having the same thing happen to them because so many lesbians are fucking feminists. And gay guys, a lot of gay guys are simps and fucking white knights for the lesbians too, for the feminist cause. And if they were all able to be married and they've all seen the real bullshit behind it and they were all getting fucked over by everybody and, you know, everybody would, it would clear everybody's fucking head. And everybody
Like I
would
said,
start to realize really quickly what's really going on. Because a lot of the, I mean, you got to understand it's only been legal for like the last, say, 10 years in some states to be married, to legally be married. It's only been like since the early 2000s, you know, for people to actually legally be married in most states. So because of that, it's a very new thing. But feminism has like been around for 60 years. So it's grabbing hold and it's getting more and more of a hold on people's lives and on laws and on the way we conduct our society.
But like I said, part of this problem is government
By
involvement in
everybody
marriage.
being able to be married now, it's going to make these feminists who weren't able to get married before be able to get married, because what's happening right now in America is there's actually a lot of people who are going into divorce court who are same-sex marriage. You know,
Well, I
they're
am
starting
for
to realize they
throwing
don't
out.
want to get married in the first place. You know,
And I'm all for throwing out government control, local and I mean federal and state government control of marriage.
yeah, I think
Getting
it
rid
should.
of
I think it should
marriage
be.
license.
If you want to get married, you should be able to get married.
No, I'm for throwing it all out. I'm for basically getting the state out of marriage, and I mean the state as in the federal and the state government out of marriage in the sense of getting rid of the marriage licenses. Stop issuing marriage and let people get married on their own terms, and take it back to the way marriage was in the old times. It basically was like this. There was no state involvement in marriage at one time. There was no licensing. It was done by either a justice of the peace or the church. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a way for them to make money now, and they're not going to turn loose of that dollar.
But tell me something. Okay? I want to ask you, since you're from your perspective. Okay, let's say a Christian. There's this Christian bakery. Okay, and they have a right to refuse service to anyone else. It's called a right of free association.
Yep.
But yet they're being like they were basically fined to oblivion for not doing a wedding cake for a gay couple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's fair by the government to do that. But this is what I keep telling people. I don't like PC. Fuck PC. I want people to be as bigoted and hateful and fucking racist as you want to fucking be. But what that does, that tells me who the fuck to stay away from. So if you got a bakery where they're telling stuff like that, I don't shop there. And what'll happen is a lot of people won't shop there either, and that bakery will close down. And maybe they won't learn anything from that. Maybe those people will still be bigoted and hateful, and they'll try to blame gays for their problems, why that place shut. But the real reason why that place shut will be because they're fucking bigoted and hateful and fucking shit, folks.
That's not the reason it happened. It was because of the fact they refused. And if you like them or hate them, okay, you gotta admit they stood by their convictions, even though they lost their business because of so many government fining them. Like
I don't care. You know, that's the thing. If you want to have a business and you're not in business to make money, and you're in business and you think your job as a business is to spread your idea.
Well, it's not like that. They were basically
they were there to do nothing more. How they make money is to make a fucking cake. That's what you do.
I understand this.
Your job is to make
Hear me out.
Your job isn't to give me a sermon. I'm not going to your fucking cake shop to fucking hear you fucking talk about the Bible to me. I'm buying a fucking cake. So if I'm gay, if I'm straight, doesn't matter. If it's a birthday cake, it's a birthday cake for a fucking horse.
That's not what they were doing.
I don't care if it's for Mr. Ed. If you're there to make a fucking cake, then make the goddamn fucking cake. And if you can't make
Well, here's
the
the
cake
deal, man.
just because the people are fucking gay, then fuck you and lose your business. That's how I feel. If you're bigoted and hateful, then you shouldn't have a business. And people
Here's the
shouldn't go
deal,
to your
man.
shop.
Here's the deal, okay? I think everyone has a right to refuse service, and they never put their beliefs, but they just didn't want to do that because it was against their beliefs to do that.
Exactly.
Basically,
Well, it's
they
against my belief.
cakes.
Go shop at your fucking racist, bigoted shop. You know,
Yeah,
it's no
but you think
different
the
than them
government
putting
has
a
a right
sign
to
on the
shut
front
them
door that
down?
says "No blacks." We don't make cakes for blacks. No different.
Well,
Just
I
because
think that's
they say,
right of free
we don't make
association.
cakes for gay marriage. Well, I don't
But
make
the
cakes. I
bureaucrat
don't
has the
make
right
cakes
to
if a
make that
white
decision.
guy is going to marry a black woman, and if a black guy is going to marry a white woman. I don't make cakes for that. I don't believe in that. I'm racist. No different. Same goddamn
Well,
fucking thing.
Well, at the same time, you don't want government telling you what you can and cannot, who
No,
you can and
it's
cannot
not the
associate.
government. I don't think the government should have done it. I don't think the government should do anything about it. I think the people, the citizens of the city that they are living in, should be the ones doing it. If
Well,
nobody is
you have the
shopping
right
at
to
your
free.
bigoted fucking cake shop, you're going to go out of business. Same thing I was telling you about Walmart. If you
Well,
don't,
it's a little different.
if this fucking bigoted shop thinks they can exist in a town where they can fucking not make cakes,
You realize that
might as
people
well put a
like you
fucking
are only
Dixie flag hanging out in
dishwasher
front of the shop.
population.
I mean, if they want to be that way, if you want to have a shop where you don't make fucking cakes for fucking people, and just because they're gay, and you don't want to fucking do any of that shit, and you want to hang like a fucking Dixie flag outside of your fucking cake shop or something, and people don't want to shop at your shop, then fuck you. Your shop is going to close because you're a fucking bigoted asshole, you know? And if you
A
want to
lot
be an
of
asshole,
times
that's free.
here's
You're
the
free to be a
deal.
bigoted
A lot of
asshole all you
politically
want. But
incorrect.
everybody is also free to say, fuck that guy. I'm not buying a fucking cake from his shop. I'll go to fucking...
Well, I understand that, and that's the right of free association.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you have a right to refuse service to whoever you want,
Yeah.
and no government bureaucracy should tell you who you cannot serve. No, I mean
Well,
that's
that's why
bottom
that's the
line.
whole PC thing. That's what's pissing me off about it, is I think they should be out of business. But the way you put those people out of business is you just stop shopping there. Simple as that. When they
What's
did
it?
that, there was a lot of people that protested them and did all that stuff, which I think is fine. You know, if you're going to have some shit like that, then you should have some people standing around your shop saying these guys are fucking assholes, which is perfectly fine.
Well, I don't.
You know, I think you should be able to walk down there
I
on the
think
fucking
go
sidewalk
with
and
your
tell them they're a
knowledge.
bunch
If
of
you don't like
assholes.
the business, go someplace else. That's the bottom line.
Exactly.
Don't protest them.
Well,
Just
that's
basically.
you have the right to protest in the United States, and that's definitely something to protest about. It would be the same thing for me if I was living in the United States and somebody had a company that they said they don't allow blacks. I would do the same thing. I would walk down there with a sign say these guys are fucking racist, you know. And you have the right to protest that. There's nothing in the Constitution that says you don't have the right to protest that.
But here's the deal.
You know?
At the same time, we have to think about, like, I think a lot of times, for example, there was this bar owner, another from the same actually state. This is Peoria, I think.
Illinois. Yeah.
Illinois.
Yeah.
So I'm not Peoria. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which city it was. Somewhere in the Midwestern cities.
Yeah.
Or no, it was Northwestern city. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I forget, but anyway, what happened was that this similar thing happened in the same area, and similar bureaucracy started to come down, but this time it was a little bit different. This guy was thinking about his bottom line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Basically, he was a bar owner. Now he
Yeah.
had regular customers who came in and paid a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you had a bunch of trans. You know what I mean? Who were basically scaring off the customers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So he didn't do it in a very loud way. He wasn't thinking like bigotry or anything like that. He was thinking, these trans are ruining my business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he decides in a quiet way to say, you can't come here no more. I'm sorry, you're not welcome at this bar anymore. He didn't say it's because you're trans, but still the bureaucracy came down on him and ruined his business.
Yeah. You know. Well, that's all part of a lot of guys are like that. It just depends on, what you're trying to accomplish. You know, I mean, you could welcome people, or you could be like that. You know,
The
and that's
problem
just
is, it was basically his high-paying It was basically making his high-paying customers uncomfortable. It was ruining
well,
his main
that's the
profits.
thing though. He needs to tell these he shouldn't allow those customers to dictate his business. You know, if it's not a problem for him, and those people are bigoted, and those people are like the guys at the cake shop. Those are
But
what they
those are
do
the
after
guys that bring in the
they
money.
leave their cake shop and they don't fucking make a goddamn cake for gay people. Then they go to this guy's bar and they don't want to sit around gay people. You know, so it's the same bullshit. They're trying to dictate, just like a feminist would. They're trying to dictate what somebody else does
No,
in
they
their
didn't
company
dictate
too.
anything. They left, and basically they said they
Well,
weren't
then let
coming
them
back
leave.
to that bar.
Let them leave.
And
I don't care
so
how
they
much money
basically
somebody
did it
pays
with
in
their
my business.
dollars.
They're going to be
They
like that.
didn't
I
like the
walk through my
trans.
shop.
And regardless of what you heard, they didn't like the trans at the bar, so they said, "Well, we're not coming back here because
Well, good.
we don't really like the atmosphere now." And
Good.
it's like, and these were the high rolling customers. These were high paying. These were regulars
Doesn't
who
matter.
who put a lot of money into his coffers. Know
It
what I
doesn't
mean?
matter.
What?
Doesn't matter.
And basically, he was thinking about the bottom line. These are the guys who give him the most profit. Okay,
Yeah.
so he decided to get rid of He decided to basically tell the trans they couldn't come back, and he did it in a nice way. He
Yeah.
didn't. It wasn't about bigotry. It wasn't about. It was about the bottom line. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, it was about his business. You know,
Yeah.
and you're saying that he had no right to do that if he was thinking about his money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, like I say, if he has the right to do that, but if he's doing it to appease his customers, that's different. I don't believe that. You know, if you're doing it for yourself, then that's something. But if you're doing it for customers, especially bigoted hate, like if you're running a bar and it just so happens that you know but don't really acknowledge that your customers in your bar are all fucking from the KKK, and
Well,
black
that's
people are coming into your bar, and these other people in the bar are saying like they don't really want to sit in the bar and they're not going to come there anymore if you allow these black people to come in your bar. Would anybody think that that was bad if he said, look, I can't have you guys in here because my other customers are uncomfortable?
well, you have to think of
Would,
this from a
you know,
logical perspective.
well, that is
The
logical.
majority of
That happened 60 years ago. We're now in an environment now where it's just becoming a thing about
well,
trans
the
and
majority of
gays
your
being in a
customers are
bar.
the KKK, and they bring in the most money. I think as a bar owner, you know, it's like,
Well, you have the right, like I say, you would
no,
have the
and
right
you
to
have the
say
right to do it because
KKK
it
bar if
basically.
that's what you want. If you want it
What?
to be a KKK bar, then have it be a KKK bar. And if
Well,
you
it's
want
not
to
the
have a
fact
bar
that
that
he
doesn't
cares
allow
about it. It's the fact that
transgender
he cares
people,
about his
then
money.
fine.
You know what I mean? He cares about his money. Bottom line,
You know.
it's
Well,
about the money.
the thing is with transgenders and gays and the way the America is right now, it's very unsafe for us. So if you're going to have a bar like that, it's nice for us to know where we can and can't go anyways, because if we go into a bar where we're not welcome, chances are we could get killed for just being ourselves. So we want to know where not to go anyways. So it's good for us, you know. But also by you doing that, it's also going to hurt your bottom line, because in the end, if somebody finds out you did that, chances are you might get boycotted, you know. And in the end, it's going to be against your interest to do that. Instead of being an
It
inclusive
might be,
place,
but what we have in America
instead of
is that
being
we
an
have these
inclusive bar,
bureaucracies
you're going to be
telling
inclusive, and
businesses who they
somebody's going to like, oh,
cannot not serve. What we have is a bureaucracy, these local government bureaucracies, telling business owners who they can and cannot serve, and that does not really help business. You know what I mean?
well, it
Basically, they're
does.
saying you
It
got to
doesn't
serve
help
these
that
people.
person's business, but it's gonna, in the end, it's gonna help. It's gonna hurt the business. You know, it's gonna hurt
Well,
their business by
let the
them.
market.
If
I
they
would
if they
say,
want to say those things, in the end, it's gonna hurt. Whether they think it's gonna help their bottom line, in the end, it's gonna hurt it, because if anybody finds out what they did, whether they did it nicely or they did it like a fucking asshole, either way, somebody's gonna find out about what they just did, and in the end, they're gonna get fucked in the ass for it. Because once somebody finds out that that bar said no trans because my other customers that are fucking bigots don't want them in here, you're signing your own death warrant.
And why should that be? Why can't people make their own decisions based on basically their own self-interest? Bottom line is here, it's the right to free association. You have a right to basically
country, and everybody should have the right to do whatever they want. But if you're going to have a company that you're in public service, you're in a field where you're in public service, then you have the right to refuse service to somebody, like say two gay guys come into your bar and they try to fuck each other in the ass at the fucking bar. You have the right to kick those guys out. They're fucking gross. You know, get the fuck out of the bar. But if two gay guys come into the bar and they just sit down and have a beer and they're just talking, not even kissing and grabbing each other's ass or anything, they're just talking. They're just sitting there. And other people are like, I don't like that. I don't like those gay people, and get them out of here. Then you have the right to have your business closed down, because if you're that much of a bigot and that fucking unwilling to even allow somebody to sit and talk in your fucking bar just because they're gay, then fuck you.
Well, you know, but you're saying that government, you're saying it's right for basically a government bureaucracy to tell this bar owner that either he does this or I'll shut you down. I don't think that's right.
Well, not that they'll shut you down. I think it should be, like I say, I think it should be city. Because some of these cities that, like if you go around Kentucky and these areas, there's still, even though it's unspoken and they don't have signs, there's still places where people know you aren't going to be welcome if you're black, and you could actually end up getting killed. There's lots of places in Kentucky that are still KKK, and everybody knows where to go and where not to go and who to talk to and who not to talk to. And if you want to be in a bar in an area like that and you want to say like no trans, no gays, you know, stuff like that, fine. And if you can succeed, fine. But in a normal environment, in a normal city, if you say some shit like that and people find out about that, your bar is going to get closed. And it's not going to get closed because of the government. It's going to get closed because you ain't going to get no business. And if you do get business, everybody that goes to your shop, everybody else is going to know who those fuckheads are. Because if they know who you are and what you've said and they still go to your bar, everybody knows they're bigots. And nobody wants to fucking deal with those people either.
Well, he's still getting business in that scenario.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's still getting business, but those people that are in his business are no different than KKK members. They're no different. Just because instead of blacks, they're talking about gays and transgenders. It's no different.
Mm-hmm. Look, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, we can't have people trying to. If there are people just don't like you, I mean, I've learned if someone doesn't like me, just avoid them. Go someplace else. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's fine. That's fine to say that, and that's fine to feel that. But it's not fine if you're being a bigot. That's not fine. You know, there's people I don't like. You know, if you're someplace and somebody you just don't get along with, you know, I don't like you, man. They're not going to be your best friend. You're not going to hang around them anymore. But you're not going to be bigoted to them. But they're just saying, like, these people are coming into their business and they're not even doing anything. They're actually spending money. They're coming into your place and they're buying a couple beers and they're buying beers and then they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything but being themselves. And basically, you're saying that somebody should be able to tell me that if I go into a bar and do nothing in the bar besides drink a beer, that the person that owns the bar should be able to tell me I can't be there just because I'm doing what that location is there for, having a beer.
The patrons did not care. No, I'm not telling you that. What I'm telling you, the patrons were not happy. The ones that bring the bigger money than
who cares?
The trans.
Who cares?
More than likely, the trans were not high rollers. They weren't basically buying the expensive drinks,
It
and
doesn't
basically,
matter. Your company is designed just like the cake shop. Your company is designed to sell beer to new customers, to old customers, whatever.
but their best customers, basically the ones who basically put in the most money. Basically, they put in the most money, so they had a say, and he had to do what he had to do. Unfortunately, it got him targeted by the government bureaucrats. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah, you
saying.
can't whine about that.
If you want to be a bigot, you have to take the consequences. You can't be a bigot and not have consequences for that, especially in the day and age we live in now. If you want to be bigoted, and people seem to not be able to understand the concept that what's happening to gays and transgenders right now is the same shit that was happening to blacks in the 50s. You know, same goddamn thing. So if you think it's fine for them to tell gays and transgenders that they can't be someplace just because we feel uncomfortable because you're there, well, fine, you can say that. But nobody wants to shop at your shop and your shop closes down or it loses money or you get a bad reputation for being a bigot, then fuck you. You deserve it. You know, if you're a racist because you don't like black people in your shop and everybody says that guy's a racist because he doesn't like blacks, you got the fucking name because that's what you are. You're a fucking racist.
Government bureaucracy to step in.
Well,
Basically,
sometimes government bureaucracy is good because it's making it safer for people in some cases. In this case, especially.
Okay.
If you're transgender and you want to go out on a Friday night and have fun, and you can't go to any bar in town because everybody feels you're uncomfortable if you're at a bar, then you can't do anything. And that also makes it unsafe because it makes people feel in the city that you're in that it's all right for them to be bigoted. Like if you go into a bar and spend some money on some beer, and then you
can always go to another bar like a trans or gay
you can't
bar.
though. It depends on what town you're in. If you have a town where they're saying it's all right for them to be bigoted, then it's unsafe. It becomes unsafe because no matter where you go in that place, anybody that if you got 10 customers that go into your bar every couple of nights and spend some money, and then those people can tell you you can't service these people in your bar, then if you do go into the bar because the owner says, nah, we're going to let them come in here, I don't give a fuck, and then you get beaten or you get killed, that's the government has to step in and say, look, you can't do that.
Well, the government can't step in and tell a business owner that basically what to do, who you cannot serve. That's the problem I got with this. I have no problem with, basically, here's the deal. You can always go to another town. You can always find another bar, one that is specifically, there are plenty of bars that specifically serve gays and trans. There's gay bars, there's
not
trans.
In every state. Not in every state. It depends on what state and what town you're living in. There's a lot of towns that there aren't, especially some of the people that live in these small little hillbilly towns.
This was a very liberal town, okay, a very liberal city, and so it wasn't like, and they had their share of gay and trans bar, but these gay and trans decided to go into this bar that was mostly occupied by straight men, you know what I mean, and try to be basically go in there and he didn't mind the business. I mean, but the bar owner, he was basically the regulars, the ones who bring in the most money, were upset about it. They left and it cut. So basically, he was losing money. So it was about the bottom line. These guys could have very well gone into like a trans or gay bar, you know what I mean? But they didn't. They decided to go into a bar that was occupied by straights. How stupid is that?
No more stupider than letting some people that go to your bar tell you what you can and can't do with your bar.
Yeah, and that's what the government was trying to do.
You can tell me what to do with my bar when you start paying my mortgage on the bar.
Well, basically, that's exactly what these customers were. They were the highest paying customers. They were the regulars.
It doesn't. I've owned 2 bars in Japan. It doesn't matter how much 1 or 2 customers spend at your bar. They might come in there 3 nights
these
a
were
week.
1 or 2,
They might
man.
spend $500 or $600, but those customers aren't paying your mortgage on the bar. They're not paying for booze.
There was
They're
a lot
paying
of
for some of it. They might be paying for 1/3 or even
losing
1/10
a lot
of
of
it.
customers, okay, over it. And like I'm saying, man, you had a choice. These trans had a choice. They could have went to a gay bar where they would be accepted, where they could put their money into, where that. Excuse me, pardon me. Hello.
Oh well.
I'm back.
Okay.
Look, I understand where you're coming from, but he wasn't basically having the customers dictate. But here's the problem: these trans people got upset when they were politely asked to leave, and so they went to the government bureaucracy saying, "Well, we were discriminated against. I want you to do something about this." You know what I mean? The local bureaucrat say, "Well, I will put them out of business."
It's the same thing. What if you went into a hood neighborhood, you know, and you went into some black bar, and you walked in there, and all you did was walk into this black bar, and you just wanted to get a beer, do nothing but just get a beer, and then the black guy asked you to leave because the other customers felt bad, so you went to a local city and said, these guys told me I couldn't go in there. And what if the same thing happened the other way? It was a white bar.
Well, I would say this is that
there would be no difference.
I would say that I would never. Here's what I would say: I'd never go to a black bar, and the bottom line is, well, personally, I would never go there. I have black friends, but I wouldn't.
Maybe you wouldn't. But what if the same exact situation happened with a black guy? What if a black guy was out of work and he went into a bar and he was the only black guy in a white bar, and somebody at the white bar told the owner that he didn't like that black guy being in there, so the white owner asked the black guy to leave because he was making the other people feel uncomfortable. There's no difference in that scenario than him having to tell transgender people to leave. And
I'll say this is I'll take my business.
Bottom line, if he said, I don't care what you guys think, you guys can leave, they have the right to be here, and I don't care if they're here or not. If that got out, how much customers do you think he would have in there that were transgender and gay because he was a cool fucking guy?
Well,
he would
I would
actually gain business, not lose business.
Yes.
He would have had a lot of people that would come there just to shake his hand and buy a beer because he wasn't a fucking asshole. And those people that left, he might have got 15 customers on top of that would make his business grow and not just stagnate where it is now. Because he's got the same old fucking customers that are bigoted instead of getting hundreds more because he was a nice, cool guy. Instead of asking transgender people to leave, he could have said, look, I'm going to allow them to stay here, and if you don't like it, you can fuck off. This is my bar. It's not your bar. When you pay my fucking rent for a month, you can tell me what I can and can't do in my fucking bar.
Look, I would say this is that I would basically take my business elsewhere. I wouldn't be so whining, so crying to basically a government agency because I was discriminated. Well, no, I'll just ask to leave. That's it, and I'll go someplace else. How come they can't have that attitude? Like,
because that attitude with transgender people gets us killed. There's people getting killed and beaten that are transgenders every day in the United States, and it's due to people like that. That's why people do that. If you go to a location where something like that happens, you try to make people aware of it because people can get hurt, and that's a situation where it can actually foster that. When you have a bunch of people in a bar like that, it's the same thing as like some nice guy walking into a bar and not realizing he just walked into a fucking biker bar, or he walked into a clubhouse for the fucking Sons of Silence or something. And you got to back out of the bar and hope nobody fucking shanks you on the way out. That's basically what you're setting up when you have a bar like that. where you're just going out for a fun night. You don't know what bar you're going to. You're just going to go out to a bar with some friends, and you walk into a bar, and you don't know. You just walked into a fucking bigoted fucking clubhouse, which is fucking, all these guys are fucking bigoted, and they hate fucking people. You know, they hate fucking trans, they hate fucking gays, and all you're doing is going out to some place to get a drink, and you didn't care. You just wanted to go someplace and get a drink, and you're not trying to.
Well, no, here's what I would do. I would be smart enough not to get into a situation like that, or go into a place that's dangerous. I mean, come on now. I mean, you know the place
You
is going to
don't
be
know it's dangerous until you go in there. And the way it becomes dangerous is by having people not being told that you shouldn't be like that.
Well, it seems that this bar
allow people to be bigoted like that, and nobody says anything to anybody like that. It's going to be unsafe. That's why people are getting killed in America, because people are saying, like, don't tell them anything. Go into their bar, and if they do that, if you go into their stores or you go into their companies and they tell you they don't like you because you're trans and you're gay, you should just leave. Don't say anything to anybody. Be really quiet. Don't tell anybody. Well, that's how people get killed, and that's why it's becoming a problem. That's why people
here's the problem.
That's why people are being beat. There's people that are in Florida, like 6 months ago. There was a trans woman who was beaten, shot, and burned. And they found her behind a trash can, behind a fucking King Soopers, and she had been there for like 3 days. And somebody had killed her, shot her, beat her, and burned her. You know, that's why shit like that goes on. That's why you don't know where you're going to be.
But in this scenario, the patrons were not
as a trans or a gay and have it be unsafe. And that's
they were not trying to kill the trans. They were just saying that we don't want to be at this bar.
The owner isn't wanting to kill a trans, but somebody that's in that bar that's that bigoted, that can't sit next to somebody that's trans and just have a beer and mind their own fucking business, that person may kill him. And if they have the owner saying, like, I don't mind you being here, and I'm going to tell those trans people to leave, he's basically just said that it's all right for you to sit in my bar and be bigoted, which gives them the idea that, hey, when these guys leave, we should follow them outside and beat the fuck out of them. You know? Because that happens every fucking day in the United States. And that's the reason why it happens. That's the reason why these people go to these government agencies and say,
this was a very liberal town, a very liberal city, so it didn't happen like that. These three men did not resort to violence. They just basically said that we were going to leave, and they wasn't even trying. They weren't even saying that they. I don't think they even like said, you know, that his patrons left. But he noticed his patrons left the minute the trans came in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was so basically he was losing a lot of his major patrons. I'm not talking about just like, you know, a few. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the main customer base. So basically he's got, you know, what they're saying, customer's always right. That's the old philosophy. So if the customers are quietly saying, I don't want these trans here, he's got to go where the money. He's got to think about his money. Bottom line, it's about the bottom line, you know. And you may think it's not like that, but you know, it's basically losing a lot of his customers.
My whole life, I know about the bottom line, but I also have a thought about the bigger picture. If you're thinking about the money right now, that's how companies die. I see it happen all the time here in Japan. There's these guys that they have. I had to explain this to a lot of guys here in Japan that have companies. They'll have a company that does cars, like I did when I exported cars. And you'll go to these Japanese guys that are selling cars to foreign buyers, and they try to get as much money as they can out of this guy on one car. And they sell him a car and charge him like $6,000 more than what it costs to buy the car. And I tell him, if you just made less money on the car, you could sell him cars for 20 years, you know? And the amount of money that you would make off the guy for 20 years of business is a hell of a lot more than you're going to make off that one fucking car that you're trying to rape him on, you know? And that's the way it works. You need to think about the long run. And these guys that are thinking about the short run are fucking idiots. I don't care what money I'm going to make this month. I care how much money am I going to make this year. How much
course.
money am I going to make in the next 5 years? That's what business is about. Business is about a month.
I totally agree. Now, whatever was going in the mind of this business owner, I think he was making a whatever. I think he wasn't bigoted in the sense he was making a rational decision. But that's the point, is that, look, you have to understand, straight people outnumber you very much. You're very much a minority across the Western world. You're only at 5% of the population. But a lot of times we're feeling that you're trying to dictate to us, a small minority trying to dictate to the majority. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing with the American Constitution. It's like you're not supposed to be able to allow a majority to tell the minority what can and can't be done to their group. You know,
we're not trying to tell you that, but we're basically,
because everybody else, like what a lot of people don't realize, it's growing every day because more and more people are coming out. They're just deciding it's all right for them to be out. But right now in America, there's over 400,000 transgender people.
Still a small.
It's still a small portion, but there's many more that are coming out all the time. You know, and it's way more than 400,000 now. But the amount of the problem is these 400,000 people have to worry every day in the United States whether they're going to be beaten, whether they're going to be killed. The amount of people in America, there's actually laws in 38 states. There's laws that say it's legal for them to not be able to work. You know, so transgender people are having a hard time finding work. It's legal for them to, like, say if you went into that bar and you was a bartender and you're transgender and you said, I want to work here, and they said, no, you're fully qualified, you have all the skills you need to be here, you know, maybe you've been a bartender for 10 years, but we're not going to hire you because you're transgender. Well, if that was because you were black or because you were gay, then you would be able to sue them. But because you're transgender, it's legal for them to say, "Oh yeah, he can do that. It's perfectly fine."
Well, that's the problem. It's the sue culture that I understand. You know, here's the deal. If you don't like it, build your own business, build your own economy. That's how things work in America. Build your own.
That would be great if those people could get a job and make money to do that. But the problem is if you're transgender in America, it's legal for people to discriminate against you. And because of that, it's very hard for transgender people to find a job and to find work. And like I say, most gays and transgenders aren't asking for special privileges. They're just asking for what you have. If I go out and I try to find a job in America, no matter who I am or what I look like, I should be able to find a job, especially if I'm qualified. You know, if I'm transgender and I want to be a welder, I should be able to go into a company and say, look, I'm a welder. They give you a welding test. They say, hey, you're a good welder. Yeah, I know. I've welded for.
Well, you have to ask yourself. Men are being discriminated against a lot in a lot of areas. I mean, but you know, you don't see us go crying to the government. Like everyday straight men are being discriminated in employment, in education, but you don't see us going crying to the government that actually hates our guts to basically call it discrimination. We don't do it. You know what I mean?
That's because when you said the small population is 400,000 people, the problem is the amount of straight men that are being discriminated against is so small compared to the amount of those 400,000 people that are being discriminated against, which is almost all of them. Like 98% of those 400,000 people have a hard time getting a job. And once they a lot of times they get jobs that they don't want because they have to find something so that they can live. So a lot of times they end up working on jobs that they really don't want and they don't like because the job that they would like to have won't hire them and it is legal for them not to hire them. And they have no recourse. They have no government recourse to help them to allow them to find work and just have what you have.
I would say that I think government, that sounds like an entitlement mentality where you were entitled to some employment. And I would say
an entitlement for you to have a job, for you to have a legal right to go get a job in something you want to do. That's not entitled.
Okay, I
You
believe
were
freedom
entitled
and
because you were a
equality.
welder and you just wanted a welding job because you were
You have the right
qualified
to
to
pursue
weld.
your own you have the right to pursue happiness. You don't not doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get what you're going to get. It just means you have the right to pursue the pursuit of happiness. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean that that things are going to pan out. That doesn't
Well,
work in the
it's not going to pan out if everybody else doesn't allow you to just do what you need to do it. You know, if I want to go to Walmart and work at Walmart as a door greeter and they say, well, you're 61 and we don't allow people here over 60, you know? I mean, yeah, then I'm going to have a hard time succeeding, you know? So if there's obstacles put in your way that don't need to be there, then yeah, it's going to be hard for you to succeed. If I say I have a
I would
job
say
and I say, well,
it's not like
everybody
being
can work
black,
here except for brunettes. We don't want brunettes working here because we just don't like brunettes. Well,
I would say
then
that
you
being
have an obstacle
transgender.
in your way, and you're not being allowed to succeed at something you can succeed at. You know,
Yeah, I would
because
say that transgender is
there's a
not like
stupid
being
obstacle
black.
put in the
Okay?
way. There's no reason why you can't hire somebody on any job in America or in any other country just because they're gay or they're straight or they're bisexual or they're fucking trans. It doesn't matter. Just because you don't like the way somebody looks or the way somebody lives their life or the way somebody does something off the job, it doesn't matter. If they
Well, in
can do
every
their
job,
job
there's a dress
and
code,
do
my
what
friend,
they're
and
asked to
basically
do,
like
or
this.
do what they're paid to do, then you
Okay.
have no right to tell them they can't.
Well, in every job, there is a dress code, and here's the problem. Okay. It's being transgender is not like being black. Okay. Black is something you're born with. It's
Being
easy to
transgender
see.
is something you're born with as well. It's not a decision.
But here's the deal: you can always dress like a man and disguise that. You can always do that, and you know it. But you being black, you can't like disguise the fact that you're black. Okay. So at the same time, we have to say that you can
Well, there's a
always
reason
dress
why
like a normal
there's a
person and
reason
go to
why there's a
work.
41% suicide rate, 8 times higher than cisgender people, and it's
You can
because of
always dress
exactly
like a
what you
normal
just
person
said.
and go to work.
You
And
should
when you
just
get off
you should
work, you
just
change
toe
your
the
clothes.
line, and if you're a male to female transgender, you should just act like you're a man to get a job. Even though you
Mhm.
feel like you're a woman, you should just act like you're a man and dress like a man so that you can get work. And
Well, every
then
job has a dress
and
code,
then
my
those
friend.
people and then those people have dysphoria and they end up committing suicide. And nobody gives a fuck.
Well,
Because
yeah, every job has a
they're
dress
making the
code. You're
owner
not.
they're making the owner of the fucking company feel uncomfortable. So fuck them, right?
Well, I don't know what to tell you, but that's freedom. I don't believe in equality. I
It's
believe in
not freedom.
freedom.
It's only freedom for the guy that has the fucking company. What about the guy that's
Yeah,
working
I'm
for you?
against the
They don't have
concept of
freedom? They have to be a
egalitarianism.
serf and a slave? I can't
I'm
fucking be who
against.
I want to be. I can't live and I can't be who I am because you feel uncomfortable? So there's only one person in this situation that gets to be free. You
Well,
know?
I'm against.
If there's
Well, I'm against
if
the
everybody
concept.
has if you're talking about freedom, then everybody's free. Because if only one person gets to be free, then none of us get to be free.
Freedom comes with
We're either all
responsibility, my
free,
friend.
we're either all free, or none of us are free.
Uh,
So if
well,
I'm working on
freedom.
a company where everybody is free except for one guy in the company because we don't like the way he dresses and we don't like the way he acts, even though he does his job and does it
That's
very
not the
well,
concept of freedom,
that's
my
not
friend.
freedom.
Well, here's the concept. Freedom is basically freedom of choice, free will, and basically free association. That's freedom. Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay,
but if you
there's
can't
no
dress the way you
equality
want,
in
then
that.
you don't have free will. If you
You
can't
have
do
free
what you
will to
want in
do
your
what you
life, then
want,
you don't
but it
have free
doesn't mean
will.
that others have to accept you. Okay, you are free to do what you want. Doesn't mean that others will accept you. Okay, that's
Well,
freedom.
you don't have to accept me, but you have to at least allow me to live, to be who I am. I'm not asking you to be my friend. I'm not
Like I
asking you
said,
to accept me. I'm not even asking you to accept me. I'm just asking you to leave me the fuck alone
okay.
and let me do what I'm going to do so that I can have a life, just
Well,
like you.
every job has a dress code, my friend. It has a dress code.
Yes,
Okay,
it
and the
does.
problem is transgenders don't follow those dress codes. That's
They
your
do,
big.
but they follow them for the dress code that they're of their gender. If they're under female dress codes, depending on what they're doing. I mean, if you're a welder and you're a transgender, you're not going to wear a dress because you're going to get your legs burned. So you're going to wear jeans and a t-shirt and whatever, same as everybody else. But if you're in a work environment, an office environment, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to wear a dress and clothes just like every other woman in the office. And if somebody else feels uncomfortable for that, fuck them.
I mean, I basically, you should look up that Ben Shapiro, Caitlyn Jenner thing. I'm more in the vein of, I would say Ben Shapiro was right about something about transgender. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand the people who can sit there and think that telling other people that you're fucking with my freedom and you're fucking with my ability to feel comfortable.
When the transgenders start
just
going
because you're being yourself, that affects me. So I have the right to affect your life and tell you you can't do anything in your life. You can't be who you want to be. You can't do anything unless you act like I want you to act. And and do what I think you should do. And you're free if you can do that. Free.
Okay, here's the deal. This is when it goes too far. When the transgenders go to bureaucrats and actually have business shut down because and taking away like business owners' right of free association and right to do business with whoever they want. You know what I mean? When they start going to bureaucrats and shutting down businesses because certain businesses won't do business with transgenders, that's the problem.
I don't think that's a problem because everybody would think it was the same problem. It's like, I don't know what this fucking idea is that it's only a problem if you talk about transgenders and gays, but it's only recognized if the same thing was happening with blacks. If somebody said, well, I just don't want blacks in my shop. I'm a bigot and I don't like blacks in my shop.
I would say
the government told, look, you can't do that. You're going to be hateful like that, and you're going to not want black people. We're going to shut you down because you can't do that. If you're going to have a shop where you have a KKK flag out front and you have the stars and bars out there as well, and then you're telling people I don't want black people in my shop, that's no different. That's absolutely no different than having a shop and saying, look, we don't like gays in here, and we don't want your fucking transgender asses in here.
Well, as a libertarian, I would say,
absolutely no difference.
I would say that, a business owner has the right of free association just like anyone else. And if he doesn't want blacks in his shop, that is his right, okay? And it may be hateful and bigoted, but at the same time, that's his right, regardless of what you think. So I would say this is that you really need to think like that business owner is basically doing what he sees fit, and that's freedom, okay? And you may not like it, but at the same time, I believe it's right of free association. I'm against government telling other people who they cannot associate, who they can and cannot do business with. I mean, I think it should be a personal decision. I think there should be a variety of choices out there, and people should make their own businesses. And if you don't like the business that didn't cater to your client, to people like you, create your own bar. Go to your own business. Stop trying to basically shut down other people's businesses.
Well, that would be fine if that would be fine if that actually worked, but that doesn't work. The whole reason why there's no lynchings in the South anymore is because the government got involved and said, look, we're ending segregation. Blacks can go into all the schools. We're getting rid of the blacks and white water fountains, and we're getting rid of this shit in the back of the bus bullshit, and all that shit's gone. And the government came in and stepped in and said that and cracked down on the KKK, and we stopped having lynchings. We still have the cross burnings, and there's people that still get hurt, but it's went down like 99% of what it used to be back in the 40s and 50s, where you would come and there would be 6 bodies hanging from trees. you know, black bodies. So the whole reason why that stopped was because the government got involved. If the government wouldn't have got involved, we'd still have black bodies hanging down there from trees. And the reason why we're having problems right now with transgender people being killed on a daily basis and being beaten on a nightly basis is because people are thinking it's fine to be that way. And the reason why they go to the government and say, look, these people are doing these things is because they want a spotlight shown on that business so that when things do happen at that business, people get hurt and people get killed in that city, the first place they're going to go is those shops. They're going to go to those places and they're going to look and they're going to ask, did you see this person? Do you know this person?
Well, you don't understand. You're being used by the government, okay, to destroy, you know, free market. And you believe that that someone has a right to own business, own land, you know, that's
it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with safety. It has to do with safety of the citizens, your constituents. That's what it has to do with. You have an obligation as a government official to keep the safety of your citizens. And if your citizens are being harmed in any way, you have a right to...
It is not the government it's not the government. Wait, hold on there. The government's duty is not for your safety, okay? You have a duty to keep yourself safe, to defend yourself. Now, if you trans don't like the fact, if you don't like being attacked, you arm yourselves. You learn self-defense.
It doesn't matter. Look at what self-defense would have worked if I was walking through a fucking mall like that girl and somebody shot me in the fucking head.
It's never life is never
driving down the fucking street in my car like that girl.
But the government can't protect you.
When I was driving in my car, just because I was trans.
If you think the government can protect you, you're wrong.
What training and fucking me having a weapon in my vehicle is going to help me from that?
Well, if the government, but here's the deal: there's no guarantee with the government. The government can't protect you. I'm sorry. The government is there.
It's better to have something, though. I would rather have something there than nothing, because if nothing's there, then it's even more unsafe.
Well, have a gun.
That's the point.
Well, I would say the point is have a gun, learn self-defense, and actually learn to defend yourself, because the government will not be there to help you when times go crisis. It's like, you know how long it takes for the police to get to a situation? So you're basically...
That's something I don't have to worry about. I don't need the police in my situation.
You want the government to come in and be like a daddy and protect you from the big bad people. That doesn't work, okay? That will never work. I'm sorry. The government can't protect you. You can only protect yourself. And it's not a guarantee in life that you ever can. But the bottom line is that you're fooling yourself if you think the government can protect you from assaults and shit like that. It's not going to happen.
It's not about the government protecting you from assaults. It's about the government making other people aware that acting that way or wanting to assault people isn't going to be tolerated. By them saying, like, look, you got the right to do whatever you want, and we're not really going to say anything about it, and if you kill somebody or beat somebody up, then we'll go investigate it. Then that gives them free reign to, like, well, if I see a fucking transgender people, I'm just going to go beat them to death.
But during the time of that situation, okay, the police. But here's the deal: there's always laws against assault, and and battery, and and murder.
Have you heard of the law trans panic?
Special laws for that. No, I mean you don't.
Have you heard of the law trans panic? Do you know what that law is?
What's a trans panic?
That law is legal in all 50 states. That states, if I'm in a bar or I'm in some area and some trans people walk up to me and I feel I'm unsafe, just because the person's there in my way, I can beat that person to death, I can kill them, I can shoot them, and in most cases those people get less than a year in prison. Some of them get no prison.
I have to have some facts, but to believe that. You know what I mean?
It's a defense that's used on almost every day in the United States. There's a bunch of people that have been killed in the United States that have served no time in jail that used the law trans panic. It's basically saying that I went crazy. I was so scared because this gay person was standing next to me, this transgender person was next to me, and I just went crazy and I killed them. And
I
then
think we have different points of view. I think that you believe the government can protect you. You know,
I don't believe the government can protect you, but I believe the government can shine a spotlight on things to keep you safe. I'm not asking them to protect me. I just want somebody to know
you
that
can
something's going
spotlight
on.
yourself. This is the age of the internet. If you don't like what's going on, post it. Put it on the internet. Let people know. You don't need the government to do that. I mean, really, you don't need government bureaucrats to let you have like internet situation. You have to like trans like information and like internet like groups and stuff like that. Just go on the internet and let them know that this business does not service trans, and then you don't give them their business. Bottom line, you don't need the government for that, but you're going to government bureaucracies and basically having them shut down these businesses because they refuse service to you. And I think that's idiotic. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's idiotic at all, especially if it helps save lives.
Well, nobody was killed in these two situations, so I don't see how your lives were ever threatened by, ever in these two situations. So only thing it's going to do in these liberal cities is drive out small business people and have them set up shop someplace else. They're all going to leave that city. You know what I mean?
Good.
It's been doing this shit. You know what I mean?
Good.
And there you go. And then
you're bigoted and you're hateful and you want to fucking be a bigot and a hateful fucking prick, then go someplace else.
Here's the deal. Those bigots when those bigots leave, the city's going to end up like Detroit. And it's going to be pretty bad because there's not going to be any small businesses. There's going to be no economy. And it's only going to be one large bureaucracy. Government's going to be the biggest, thing. And
that's just silly. That has absolutely no basis in reality. The fact is when those companies leave, all that's saying is the people that are going to be left there are going to be like nice people that they aren't bigoted, they aren't hateful, they don't really care. Come into my store and come into my shops and fucking eat.
Well, everyone has
nobody's gonna tell you anything. Nobody's gonna fucking say anything to you, and you can just come into Starbucks and get a coffee and go to the next store and get something to eat. Go buy some groceries, and nobody's gonna fucking bother you as long as you don't do anything and harm anyone else.
Everyone has their own personal biases against other people.
That's what I mean.
Everyone has their own bias. Okay, everyone's biased in one way or another.
Well, that's fine. You can be biased.
You gotta get rid of bias.
Keep your biased, bigoted bullshit to yourself. I don't care if you're a racist. I don't care if you don't like white people. I don't care if you don't like black people. Just don't fucking tell me about it. Because if somebody comes up to me and says something about a black person,
well, here's the deal. He didn't tell you. The bar owner wasn't bigoted in the sense, or he didn't tell you that he didn't tell you basically that the reason you're not allowed this bar anymore because you're trans. Okay, the bar owner just said, "I'm sorry, you gotta go. You can't come back. I'm sorry."
That's the thing. You don't have to say that. If you're trans and you're in a bar and a bartender does that, there's no other reason why they would ask you that. You're not gonna. If you were black in a bar and all the bars, a hillbilly cowboy bar, and you walk in there and sit down and say, "Hey, can I get a bud?" and the guy goes, "You're gonna have to leave." There's no way you don't know the reason why you're being asked to leave is because you're black. So it's not like it was some mystery of why they were being asked to leave. Just because the guy said nicely, "Look, you guys are gonna have to leave." They didn't think like it was because they were, they didn't do their nails or something that night. They know exactly why they were asked to leave.
Like I said, I am just a little bit different in thinking than you. I believe in like free association. I believe in freedom. I don't believe in egalitarianism. So this is the reason why I'm anti-egalitarian. You know what I mean?
But the thing is it's a two-way street. A lot of people don't understand this. They think it's freedom. It's freedom to have all these people that can have these businesses that can say who can and can't come in there. But as soon as you allow that to happen, then it degrades to not just trans. then all of a sudden people can say, I don't want Chinese people in my place. You know, I don't want white people in my place. I don't want black people in my place. I don't want Mexicans in my place.
So what?
Pretty soon you can't. Pretty
So
soon
what? Doesn't really
you have
matter.
the same society that you had in the 1950s, where there's these certain places that you can't go because these people don't like me, and then it becomes, you have this society where it's legal for people to be fucking bigots. That's
So
basically
what?
what you're setting up, and then you're saying it's
So what?
freedom,
That just
but
shows
it's
you
only
who you
freedom
are.
for the
You
people that
must
have those
out with
businesses.
the
And it's
people
only
that are
freedom
bigots.
for the people that
See?
have hate. It's only freedom for the
So,
bigots. The people that
but
are
so what?
being
You
bigoted
get
against
business
don't have
people.
freedom.
Well, you do have freedom. So what? You take your business
You don't have
elsewhere.
freedom.
You
You
place
can't
your
go
business
anywhere.
on bigots.
You can only
Okay.
go
That's what I
someplace.
want.
I've talked about it before with my fucking students. If I take a bunch of shit and I set it on a fucking table, and I tell you you can pick anything from that table that you want, but there's a bunch of shit outside, but you can't have any of that. I'm only giving you the decision of what's on the table. You know, that's not free choice. You only get choose what I tell you you can choose. So just because you have these bars or these places that you can go, if you allow everybody to be bigoted, you can only go to these certain areas in the town because that's the only place you're safe. If you go someplace else, you have a good chance that you could be killed, shot, or beat because you can't be in those areas because people have said it's legal for them to be bigots. So by setting up this system where you think it's freedom to allow these people to be bigots and hateful to anybody they feel like being bigots and hateful to, that's fucking a stupid system. Because now you're setting up
The
a
other
system where,
alternative
depending
is
on
basically
what you
have a
are,
system where the
depending on
government
what you
tells
associate
everyone
yourself
who
with,
they
you're
who they
Mexican,
can.
and maybe these Mexican people that don't like, that are Trump supporters, don't like Mexicans, and then all of a sudden you have these people that want to kill the Mexicans that come to their bar.
Well, the other alternative would be having a system where the government tells you who you cannot talk to. Basically, if you don't associate with these people, they'll punish you, and you have this like a forced equality that enforced so basically, and it causes a lot of resentment and against the PC culture, and that's exactly what's happening. The government should not be telling people who they can associate and who they can't. It's like basically the hypocrisy of women having clubs, women-only clubs, right? It's like for themselves. But if man tries to start the same thing, he would be sued to oblivion for discrimination.
Well, maybe. I mean, you might have that, but you have the same thing when you have gay men clubs. There's a lot of gay men clubs where sometimes transgenders go in there, and sometimes stuff like that happens. But the thing is what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of transgender girls feel like they're straight. They're not attracted to gay men, and they're not attracted to women. They're attracted to men, straight men.
That would cause problems. I've heard something like that.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of times you can't do that. If he doesn't know, for example, that could cause I would say that would either be very dangerous to you to actually pretend to be a woman and you find out it's not.
Yeah.
I've heard some stories about, but that's on you in the sense. But basically,
that's the transpanic defense. That's where they get it.
No, that's on you because you're luring this guy in thinking that you're a woman, right?
Yeah.
And basically, and you find out he's not. Well, that's a very dangerous situation you're putting yourself in.
Yeah.
Because that will piss a lot of men off to the point. And I've heard some stories that happen about that. And I would just say you better let them know ahead of time that you're a man. I mean, that you're trans or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it could cause problems. Because you have to have him. Because you have to let him know. Okay, you can't lie to him. Okay, because that's basically you're deceiving that guy, and that's false advertising, in my opinion. And it's basically and if he finds out, it's not going to be very nice. Okay, because his reaction will be not. So don't fool the guy. Let him know ahead of time that you're a man, so he doesn't, so nothing bad happens to you. So that's just common sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not always it's not always that simple though. You're making it sound like it's a really simple thing. If I'm in a bar and I'm just hanging out and you're dressed as a woman, and you're not even talking to anybody in the bar. If some guy thinks you're cute and comes up and talks to you or something, that's on him. Because first of all, I haven't said I want to have sex with you. I haven't said I want to have anything to do with you. I'm just sitting in a bar drinking. So if you come up to me and you think I'm cute and you are sexually attracted to me, and then you find out I'm a guy, well, that's on you. That's not on me.
Well, yeah, I think you should tell him ahead of time out of
Well, I'm not.
respect.
That's the thing. You're setting up a fucking retarded system where you think, like, what? Do you walk into a bar and when you walk in there, you just kind of, as you walk in the bar, you go, "Hey, everybody, I'm fucking straight. I'm cisgendered. I got a dick." No, you don't fucking do
No,
that.
you tell him
Why
when
would
you
you? Why
talk.
would you ask? Why would you ask a transgender person to walk into a bar and put themselves in, like in these cases I'm talking about, where you might walk into a bar and you might have bigoted people in there that want to beat you up and kill you, and you're going to walk into a bar and say, "Hey, everybody, I'm fucking transgender."
There is a story I heard
That's
about.
stupid.
Basically, there was a guy he met on Tinder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tinder. You know what I mean? And it was a black transgender, you could say, named Tyrone. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
This guy was a college football player, and he got really pissed off, and the transgender was shot because he found out that it wasn't well, it was a chick with a dick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. In those cases, they use the transpanic defense, and they get off of it. And
No, this guy, he's in prison now. He's not getting off. Trust me.
yeah,
He was black too. This was a
yeah.
whole
Well,
black.
that's probably part of the reason why he's in prison. If it was a white guy, they'd probably be out right now. You know.
Most of the time, from what I can tell, it's never really like killing. It's more like the transgender will get beaten. If they basically, it's basically this: he takes this transgender home, thinking it's a woman, then he finds out it isn't, and he's pissed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he actually went to jail for a period of time for a second degree assault. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's not necessarily that they get off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
But I
that's
would
the
say,
thing. A lot of times they do.
but once that man is willing to, if you're willing to go with that man, you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
quietly tell him that you're a man. You don't tell him publicly. You tell him outside the bar, or whatever, with the safest place, and let him make that decision. Because you're not giving him to make like informed consent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Give him informed consent
Yeah.
where he wants to go. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Well, I'll see. I gotta go.
All right.